Okay, anyway, well, look, let's get started, everybody. So let's think about this. What is it? We're at May now. So what was happening at May 3 years ago? May, we're leading into. Is this like the blog post of launch
This
of
is the Luna
this?
crash. Yeah,
Oh,
this
the
is
lunar
good.
crash. Yeah.
This
Okay.
is very good remembrance. Thank you, Simon, for the timeline. May 2022. This is the beginning, early May, late of April. This is the depegging of the UST Luna stablecoin. And after
So
the peak of
this is when Jerome Powell was telling us that inflation is transitory, right? Or was that was leading
Mm,
up to the Russia Ukraine thing?
yes,
Uh, no,
February.
this was the China
It was
ban, isn't it? China banned mining.
China buying mining was the year maybe it was the year before, but definitely February 22 was the war in Ukraine. Inflation is transitory. Was kind of end of the year, maybe same timeline. But on our main story here, it was that the Luna peaked and start dumping. The UST depegged and Celsius exited and participated in the Luna death spiral, because the truth is that a lot of customer deposit, which people lost their custody as per the term of service. So this is the lesson we have learned through these 3 years debacle. When you put funds on a platform, whether it's crypto or whatever, for saving, investment, yield, always read the term of service, check who has the property of your funds, what happened in case of bankruptcy. And in this case, yes, Celsius, there was a death spiral of the Anchor protocol, and Celsius was heavily invested in that, so they withdrew, but they could not face the bank run, which was consequences of both this
Okay.
panic in the
Yeah.
market. I'll let you talk now.
Yeah. Cool. So let's remind ourselves. So all right, 3 years ago, we had February 2022. We had the NATO escalation that led to a retaliation by Russia. BlackRock is getting ready to carve up Ukraine, do a rare earth deal, take over half the land by collateralizing all of the loans, getting the Fed to print billions of dollars to send over to Ukraine. We're told we're fighting for democracy. The UK president, I think it was Boris Johnson at the time, collateralized the entire UK economy with IMF loans in order to send to Lockheed Martin, General Dynamic, and Raytheon in order to create an inflationary cycle where by escalating the war, shit tons of money ends up in the profits of the military industrial complex. And we're told that we don't care about COVID anymore. Right before it, we had a death counter telling us that we're killing grandmas if we leave our house. And we all need to have vaccinations for big pharma profits. And we're told that people are dying every single day from I guess Trump was calling it the China virus at the time. Now we found out that it was a operation that was funded by the US in the Wuhan lab in order to create, essentially now kill 20 million people. And so we're being told that if we don't get vaccinated and if we leave our houses and we don't social distance and we don't wear masks, that we're killing grandmas. And one day, all of a sudden, the death counter stops. And we're told that we can go out because we all need to defend democracy. And so suddenly this creates a inflationary cycle, or the start of an inflationary cycle. Shut down the whole economy all around the world. And we suddenly print trillions of dollars globally. create economic chaos absolutely everywhere, and set in a series of events that we're still paying for to this day. So it all begins there. So Jerome Powell, the Fed, says, yeah, we don't think this is going to lead to inflation, even though we know that inflation is a monetary concept. And so Biden then goes over to Saudi Arabia and he meets with Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, and says, can you please flood the market with oil? Because if you don't, we could end up in a bit of an inflationary cycle. So we're led to believe that Biden knew, but Powell didn't know. And MBS said, screw you, you didn't help us before. I remember, we've got memory. And so MBS said, no, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to work with Russia. And we're going to constrict the supply of oil and push up the prices of oil. And so across America, everybody starts queuing outside their homes. Meanwhile, Alex Mashinsky is doing an AMA every single week, telling us, or telling people, I wasn't watching the AMA, I was a shareholder at this point. I decided that I would experiment with borrowing against some of my Bitcoin rather than selling it as a shareholder, invested in 2020. It turns out, we didn't know this at the time, but it turns out in 2018, Alex Mashinsky took over the trading desk and just started trading client Bitcoin. He went short Bitcoin, made a $15 million loss. And then when I was visiting New York, decided I've got an idea. Why don't we get Simon to invest and we can get a bunch of his clients to invest and I can fill the hole, but I just won't tell them about the hole because we just lost the money. And if we can raise a bunch of money, so he goes to Tether, raises $10 million, raises another $10 million, fills the hole and starts the Ponzi again and starts looking for new ideas to try and make money and offer yield that was completely unreasonable. So he turns it into approximately a $25 billion of assets on the platform as the price of Bitcoin goes through the roof. We had the COVID pump, and people started to realize that Bitcoin was the solution to many of the problems that they were experiencing. A bunch of money was printed and people started to invest it into Bitcoin. And we entered into an almighty bull market that, if memory serves me right, peaked at about $69,000. And by this time, Mashinsky sat on approximately, by marking to market, the shitcoin that he launched, Cell Token, and trying to get as many people to buy that Cell Token while him and his wife were selling it and dumping it on his customers, that he could try and hide this almost $2 billion hole by pumping up the price of Cell Token and then pretending like there was no liquidity discount. He went across to White and Case, the law firm, the same law firm that represented us during the Chapter 11 process, the same one that did the due diligence for the Canadian Pension Fund, saying all good, and managed to scam Canadian pensioners out of $750 million in equity, knowing that there was a $1.8 billion hole on the balance sheet, depending on how you value it, some of the different assets, your liquid assets. And we're saying, no problem, you can do instant withdrawals, and I'm going to be investing in some of the most long-term things you could ever imagine. And so Mashinsky said, I've got an idea. During the bull market, there's this company called Marathon Digital. And Marathon Digital was a mining company. And if you remember, when China banned Bitcoin mining, suddenly a bunch of companies started going over to Texas, and they were one of the net beneficiaries. It's now got approximately 40% of the hash power behind Bitcoin mining. But it started to decentralize the Bitcoin mining a little bit more. And Mashinsky came up with an idea. Why don't I invest in the equity of all the mining companies and then also simultaneously do some deals where they could send us a bunch of ASIC mining machines? And then if I can just put that company public and I can create one of the biggest mining companies, then maybe I could take the client Bitcoin and borrow against it. So he knocked on Tether's door and said, hey, here's a 69,000 client Bitcoin. Can you issue me, $1 billion loan or so? I can't remember if the numbers are right. I'm just trying to do this from memory. And so Tether says, yeah, sure, we'll lend you $1 billion. And he goes out on and plays fake VC, and goes to try and find as much mining equipment and contracts, and suddenly thinks that he's able to run a Bitcoin mining company. He goes and invests in the equity of many of the companies. He also, remember, the hole was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There were hacks with ETH and various other things that were happening. And his job was just to persuade people that if I tell them that they could get a higher yield and I go live every single week and the market still continues to go up, and then we can take this Bitcoin mining company and we can IPO it and we can hire Citibank in order to make it go public, and we can repeat the process of what Marathon Digital want, then maybe I can make $5 billion and buy the Bitcoin and fill in the hole and start again and come up with another good idea of how I might be able to generate yield for people. Why don't I also just start issuing loans to Alameda Research and FTX and various other, Three Arrows Capital? And maybe I could issue some loans and some yield. And there's this new amazing investment called Terra Luna. Terra Luna was pumped up by Mike Novogratz from Galaxy Digital that got the tattoo on his shoulder and said, hey, I got a good idea. Why don't we create a new pre-mined coin called, I can't even remember whether it's called Terra or Luna. I think the coin was called Luna and then the stable coin was Terra. And we can back the whole thing. We can back as much of it by a shitcoin and market to market. We can create an algorithmic methodology where we essentially find a bunch of VCs that will pay 18% yield on this stablecoin. And all the lending platforms like Celsius, like Voyager, like BlockFi, they can start investing and they can get 18% yield, and we can keep subsidizing it. And then maybe we can use this stable coin in order to try and back it by as much Bitcoin as possible as well. And so it accumulated as much Bitcoin, and everyone was cheering on every week while Terra Luna was accumulating Bitcoin in order to back this stable coin. And, so Mashinsky's trying to get the company public. The different crypto lending platforms are all lending money to each other. Tether's got a massive chunk of client Bitcoin. They mine some stable coin. And then we start to hit the moment where Mashinsky started believing that Bitcoin would go over to 100K. Hey, guess what? Today we went over 100K. Remember all those old blogs on Celsius? Mashinsky saying Bitcoin's going over 100K. Well, he decided to bet with client money on 100K. And so then he got a little bit desperate. And in his desperation, he started to go across, do tours like across Miami, and he tried to find some pensioners that wanted to empty out their pension. And he would then go to them, and some of the people that we met over the years, like Rebecca Gallagher, would sit in Miami and look Mashinsky in the face and say, Mashinsky, this is all I've got. I'm retired. This is all I've got. Are you sure this is safe? He said, absolutely. It's safer than a bank. You can convert all your money into stable coins, and then you can get a 12% yield on it. And then you can use that income in order to retire. And why don't you just drain your 401k and your retirement fund? Why don't you take all of your fiat currency and convert it all into a stable coin? Why don't you put everything you've got and put it in Celsius? Because Celsius is safer than a bank. And we're taking on the banks. We're taking down the banking system. And he would use the Bitcoin pitch and make it out like Celsius is actually taking 80% of its profits because those evil bank shysters are stealing your money. And I'm going to take 80% of all that money that banks make and I'm going to pay yield to you. And you're going to be the bank and you're going to put your money with me, knowing that there was a multi-billion-dollar hole and he was running a Ponzi scheme. And he believed, don't worry, I can trade my way out of this one. You know, and in the meantime, suddenly the Fed decides, inflation isn't quite transitory. Biden can't get the price of oil down. Saudi Arabia is not actually so friendly with us right now. Turns out that, Russia is a little bit more friendly. And so it looks like Biden may have been right and the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell was wrong. And suddenly we're told that inflation is transitory, so you don't need to worry about it. And with inflation being transitory, people in the UK choosing between eating and heating, helicopter money going out, stimmy checks going out, the economy starts to, be negatively impacted, and the price of bonds go down, yields go up, and suddenly people need to start selling their Bitcoin behind Terra Luna because we ended up with a market correction. I think if I remember, if memory serves me right, it was started with the China ban of Bitcoin mining, and then that led to a series of events. And suddenly the whole theory of how Mashinsky was going to roll over this Ponzi scheme, fill in the hole, buy the Bitcoin back, and suddenly figure out how to magically pay yield because he's the best investor and the best trader in the world, suddenly turned into, no, I got to persuade more and more people to deposit so that I can pay old depositors off with new depositors' money. And he came to me as well and tried to do another funding round, see if he could get me to put more money in. I ended up putting a bunch of money in to borrow against my Bitcoin and also see if I could generate some yield on it to pay the interest. Pretty much, now it seems like a very foolish move. Made sure it was risk managed though, and ended up being the 7th largest creditor in the case. And then suddenly, a bunch of blogs are launched and people are told that they're fudsters. I think it was Max Kaiser that started saying, hey, this is a Ponzi, and Mike Alfred saying, hey, this is a Ponzi. Who else was it? Corey Klippstein started saying, hey, this is a Ponzi. And then everyone started fighting against them, saying, hey, FUD, 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 FUD. Mashinsky, Nuke, Daniel Leone, they would all come out and say, stop fudding. I think it was damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead, or whatever it may be. Get on the AMA every week, go around to all the different bit boys and invest answers and find as many people that would allow Mashinsky to come on saying, it's all FUD. We're safer than a bank. Everybody put your money in. Meanwhile, Mashinsky was withdrawing approximately $50 million and taking his wife's MetaMask wallets that were connected to Ponzi schemes and scams and pumps and dumps that Dirty Bubble Media had warned us about. But I thought, unfortunately, we didn't see any of those things. And they start continuing to sell as many cell tokens now that he's going to end up in a cell for his actions. And he would sell as many tokens over the counter and just call up people, get the team, hey, why don't you go find as many people that will buy these cell tokens off me? And he'd put together deals. About, I think, 70% of the board, they were all hanging out in Israel, believing that they could probably get protection from what was coming. And the head of loans, an IDF member of the IDF, and she's now in the propaganda team at the IDF, propaganding genocide at the moment. And she was the head of lending, the wife of Daniel Leone. Daniel Leone, who currently has a business working with the Prime Minister's Office of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. There was a company called Bancor Dow that got hacked, and Bancor Dow, the shareholders of Bancor Dow, which led to losses of some of our money, was actually fully owned by the niece and nephew of Benjamin Netanyahu. So there was a family little business that was hacking some money out of that as well. While many of the others were hanging out in Israel, they've now all got AI startups and contracts with the Israeli government. And Mashinsky decides that the best thing to do is just try and get more and more people to put more and more money in, but people weren't falling for it. And so a bunch of people took their money out, and they're now still in court cases because the way the Chapter 11 process works is if anyone withdrew their money, because some people will get 100% of their money back and the others will get 25% of their money back. And Mashinsky decided, rather than close this thing, let's actually just see if we can get more and more people to deposit. So more and more people will withdraw money. They got all their money back, and they're now in court case because there's a thing called clawbacks. And those clawback mechanism was still being fought now, and people have been settling to try and put more money back so it evens out a little bit what people actually get. And then he decides that I've got an idea. Why don't I call Simon? And so I think at this time we are now in, if memory serves me right, I think it was the 12th of June, 2022. My father becomes critically ill because I couldn't persuade him not to take a vaccine. He decided that he would believe the media and ended up taking that vaccine. And on the 12th of June 2022, my father passes away. And Alex Mashinsky calls me, sends me a message saying, Simon, can you help me out here? And so we ended up in this, in this situation. I was asked to do a call with Goldman Sachs and Citibank and Alex Mashinsky to see if we could do what we did for Bitfinex. If you remember, Bitfinex, they had 120,000 Bitcoin missing. Those Bitcoin have now come back. And we structured the most successful recovery from bankruptcy because they disclosed everything. There wasn't a fraud element to it. There was 120,000 Bitcoin hacked and missing. And so I went about seeing if we could help Mashinsky and Celsius and see if we could recover the fact that I was one of the largest depositors. And still to this day, he didn't disclose. I said, you've got to give me the financials. Prior to this, by the way, he was trying to get me to get us more and more money in and do another equity deal. And we kept saying, well, you've got to give us the regular. So our team at Bank to the Future said, you've got to give us the regulatory disclosures and you've got to give us the financial disclosures. They refused to do it. Daniel Leone, Ronnie Coven-Pavan gave my team at Bank to the Future hell, started telling them that they need to, how dare we ask for all this stuff. And Simon, if you don't sort your team out, we've got money that we need to raise. And we end up in, we now know. And so I started to come on, someone called Plan C started to do Spaces, and Spaces had just launched. And he invited me up, and I said, well, I've presented to Mashinsky a plan. And because he hasn't told me anything, I got a feeling this thing's going into bankruptcy because he won't give the financial disclosures. And so everyone started absolutely attacking me. We had the sell short squeezers. Mashinsky leaked out a narrative in order to try and get everyone to buy sell token. He built his little team to this day that are still probably paid shills in order to apologize to Mashinsky. We know the tactics now. If anyone's been involved in any of these wartime spaces, you'll know what people are capable of doing. They all get paid in order to, fulfill different agendas and push different narratives. And suddenly the community were very hostile. We got all the recordings. If anyone actually wants to go back through this, I doubt anyone would want to go through that pain. But we got all the different recordings of those early spaces. And I started saying to everybody, this thing's going into bankruptcy. Get ready. And I think it was July the 22nd or something like that. I can't remember my dates now. It's been 3 years. The thing goes into bankruptcy. And we get gaslighted and triggered by all of these Celsius employees and Mashinsky shills telling us if we don't buy sell token and participate in the sell short squeeze, because SBF is the guy that was manipulating the price and took out Celsius because Mashinsky is the good guy. Mashinsky wants to save you from the banks. He's going to give you 80% of your of the income. And so we started being gaslit, and the whole community were trying to figure out what's going on. And it became very apparent that there were thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of victims of this thing. And all of our spaces, you would get 20,000 people turn up. This was really in the early day of spaces. Thank goodness for spaces in those early days, and the community kind of got together, was trying to figure out what's going on. And we figured out that, wow, there's another scam that's almost just as big as Mashinsky's scam, and it's the lawyers and Chapter 11, and the UCC was formed, where those that were top creditors got to apply to the bankruptcy court and put together a little syndicate of people that could help try and restructure this plan. So what happened next? We had Mashinsky that was still working for the company at the time. There was the turnover of all the different lawyers. None of us had experience in Chapter 11. We didn't realize that actually Mashinsky is just trying to prevent himself going into prison. And the lawyers are there. Some lawyers are representing Mashinsky. Others are representing the company. But we went through this absolute gaslighting process where the lawyers were just trying to extract as much value, because Chapter 11, the process of bankruptcy, turns out that lawyers are allowed to spend client money. Normally that's illegal. Normally touching client money like Mashinsky puts you in prison. Instead, they're allowed to legally, by protection of the judge and law, just spend our money. And the price of Bitcoin's going down. Then suddenly all these cascading effects, we find out that Terra Luna was the reason that it crashed in the first place. It turns out there was a hedge fund called 3 Arrows Capital. It took us a while to figure all this stuff out. And 3 Arrows Capital was borrowing money from Celsius, borrowing money from BlockFi, borrowing money from Voyager, and then taking risky bets and investing in things like Terra Luna, was investing in all these different things that started creating. So while they were only working with sophisticated investors, because Celsius, the entity, was a sophisticated investor, so high-risk hedge funds could sell to sophisticated investors. But on the other side, Mashinsky was falsely representing that this was regulated. And we all know that all he had done is tried to sell a token. And when you sell a token, you tell the SEC, by the way, I'm selling this security. And then he used the fact that he filed a Form D with the SEC to pretend that the company was SEC regulated, and represented that week after week to his victims. All he had done is filed a form called a Form D to tell the SEC that he's going to be selling the security. Oh, yeah. And by the way, he pretended that he had raised $50 million. He'd only raised $32 million and papered up the whole with a fake $18 million loan, and persuaded the directors to try and magically make the loan disappear by taking the Cell token, collateralizing it against it, while all the directors would take the Cell tokens that they got for free, and they would engineer a scheme whereby the higher the price a Cell token gets, the more staff would get. And they would create this token option incentive scheme. And then Mashinsky, behind the scenes, with all the WhatsApp messages, would be messaging his staff saying, take client Bitcoin and buy Cell token, while he would dump his Cell token and it effectively end up taking our pristine collateral Bitcoin. And then he would take it and put it in his shell companies. He had AM Ventures Limited, he had Alex Mashinsky, he had Chrissy Mashinsky, he had Koala 1, Koala 2, Koala 3. And by the way, those shell companies that he set up have still got a shit ton of money. And the judge, when the DOJ said what happened, he's pretending to be sorry right now, but he's still got all the money that he's put through those shell companies. And remember, he would even join the bankruptcy process and pretend he was a creditor victim so that he could get his claim from the bankruptcy as well, acting like he's just some poor, innocent customer. That's the level of gaslighting and narcissism this piece of shit called Alex Mashinsky is, as he sobs in the court today, pretending that he cares about his victims and saying, I'll take the hit for my 1,000 staff. Even blame shifting to this day, still blame shifting in the sentencing. And what does the judge say? The judge says, you're going to get less than SBF because you served in the Israeli IDF. Interesting. But anyway, back to where we are. So we have this, this cascading situation. Turns out everyone's lending to Three Arrows Capital. And how was Three Arrows Capital making money? Three Arrows Capital was making money out of arbitraging GBTC, the Global Bitcoin Trust, which went from a 50% premium to a 50% discount. Right now, we got the Terra Luna trade that went wrong, the GBTC arbitrage trade that went wrong, and all the other shitcoins that essentially Three Arrows Capital was investing in. And what else were they investing in? Alameda Research. Alameda Research, the same hedge fund that was created by Sam Bankman-Fried. Sam Bankman-Fried, the guy that just suddenly appeared out of nowhere in 2017 and was propelled to superstardom and got a meeting with Gary Gensler from the SEC when none of the companies in our industry could even get a meeting with the SEC. Why? Because the Federal Reserve, the SEC, were putting together Operation Choke Point 2.0, a strategy to strategically hand over the Bitcoin industry to BlackRock and the other financial institutions because they missed Bitcoin. And so they wanted to create a game where they essentially stole our Bitcoin, speculative attack the industry, and use scam artists to steal people like Mashinsky and SBF in order to steal from your pensions and your savings. The people that are involved in this sentencing that only gave Mashinsky his shortened sentence right now are all part of a criminal system that has been codified into law in order to take your Bitcoin and put the price and mark the price of Bitcoin after a crash so that you end up getting a dollar claim in the bankruptcy rather than in kind and being able to have your Bitcoin. So this elaborate scheme all comes down. It turns out everyone's connected to each other. There's systemic risk in the system. Those that got their Bitcoin out are fine. Those that are dealing with these centralized entities, they're all connected. They're all lending to each other. No one fully understood or appreciated all the risk. And we enter into this bankruptcy process. We start to see that SBF and FTX was papering up a ginormous hole because he was using the same technique that Mashinsky was using. They were marking to market the FTT token while Mashinsky was marking to market the Cell token. And all of that fraud was happening through the FTX exchange. Dirty Bubble Media starts to do some blockchain analysis and starts to, ask what's happening with all this wash trading and all these Cell tokens that are going through the FTX exchange. We had previous employees of Celsius, like Zach Wilders, that when people started going through his previous social media, he looks like the craziest guy you've ever seen. And he was telling us it's all good. It's all good. We're going to recover. Mashinsky's going to release a plan and he's going to become a custodian and everything's going to be recovered and everything's going to be good. Just follow the plan. Trust Mashinsky. So then we enter into the bankruptcy. Now, the very first thing we needed to achieve, which was one of the reasons why we ended up with half a decent recovery, is we needed to persuade the bankruptcy court not to sell our Bitcoin. So one of the first things I did and other people did is lobby to not sell the Bitcoin. Fortunately, we were the only bankruptcy case where they didn't sell our Bitcoin. In BlockFi, they sold the Bitcoin at the bottom of the market and then put it in Silicon Valley Bank. We know what happened to Silicon Valley Bank in 2023. That got restructured as part of Operation Choke Point 2.0 in order to hand over our industry to BlackRock and all the other financial institutions that now wanted to get into our sector. And so we managed to keep the Bitcoin. We won the first case. That was the most important one, by the way, out of the whole case. And we proceeded to get completely rinsed by lawyers for the next 2 years, bit by bit by bit. While Mashinsky was refusing to step down and wanted to remain as CEO in order to cover up as much fraud as possible, and was still continuing to use his or get his wife to sell tokens even during this bankruptcy. All the blockchain is there, Chrissy Mashinsky. We know what happens there. You can't hide the blockchain. And continue to get the Celsius short squeezers to push another pump and dump scheme so that Chrissy Mashinsky and Alex Mashinsky could sell their Cell token and dump it on the Cell short squeezers that still to this day are simping for Mashinsky, sending letters to the judge saying this guy didn't mean to do it. He was trying to take on the banking system and the banks took him out because he was so risky to the banking system. And then we started to unfold the whole SBF and FTX saga. If you remember, what a journey we've been through, hey? So CZ from Binance comes out and says, oh God, even remember at this point, we went into the auction. Bank to the Future gave the Celsius bankruptcy a solution. We said, we don't want to get paid anything. Don't give us any money. We'll just give everyone their coins and then we'll package up all the assets into equity. We've done that all the time. And then everyone can benefit from the equity. We'll distribute it to everybody through the platform. But of course, there was no money in that for the bankruptcy. They had to help out their buddies. They had to make sure that they got 2 years of bills from our money. They had to make sure that they put together their bankruptcy buddies. And the UCC started to say, hey, this is a pretty good career. This is a pretty good gig. This feels like I've been involved in the most important thing. And maybe if we could take this company public, I might be able to be the chief executive officer or the executive on the board of a new public company. Wouldn't that be great for my CV? Wouldn't that be a good thing? So the UCC set about optimizing the game in order to maximize the outcome for themselves by constructing a deal with White and Case, where White and Case got to put all of their buddies in. They're going to be managing the mining, and they made everything overly complicated. In fact, the first auction with NovaWolf involved us giving them another $2 billion of our Bitcoin in order to structure it into an asset management company rather than give it to us. And they chose that plan rather than working with us that wanted to do everything for free, because I clearly wasn't in the gang that would make lots of fees and generate lots of money for the bankruptcy process. So we end up in a situation and suddenly Sam Bankman-Fried wanted to hide all the fraudulent loans that he was engaged in with the massive hole on the FTX balance sheet and said, I'll tell you what, why don't I buy Celsius? Why don't I buy Voyager? Why don't I buy BlockFi? And he would structure a deal where these fake loans would happen across the institutions, where he would get the equity for free, and then he would try and hide the fact that he was broke and insolvent himself, coming across as if he was the superstar, mega bazillionaire hero that he was manufactured to be in the first place. Everything is fake in this whole damn thing. SBF was a manufactured fake ass superhero that was created, that was essentially there to, creating his little Ponzi, his little hedge fund. And so back when we went, the FTX suddenly started going bankrupt. How did that go bankrupt? If you remember, CZ from Binance said, I don't think, FTX has got their money. And so he announced that he's looking to divest. And when he was divesting, that crashed the price of the FTT token. And what was her name? Caroline, or whatever her name was, from Alameda. Can't even remember all these characters. It's been such a journey. She was like, we'll buy all the tokens, trying to prop it up. And before you know it, Binance said, we're no longer buying FTX. The price of FTT token crashes, and FTX files for Chapter 11 and crashes the price of Bitcoin down to $17,000. And guess what the same ass bankruptcy lawyers do? The same ass bankruptcy lawyers decide we're going to mark the price of everyone's claim in FTX to $17,000. And if we can spend a couple of years on this case, we can extract $1 billion of client money. And then with that $1 billion, we can also, maybe the price of Bitcoin will recover. We can pretend that everyone's been made whole, even though they're getting a fraction of their Bitcoin back. And then we can auction off all the assets to Pantera Capital and Galaxy Digital. And all the vultures come around and try and swoop up all the assets, rather than just the UCC structuring it and giving everyone their assets as we had put forward as part of the plan. And they all started to construct this elaborate scheme around how they all got jobs, and they all get to manage the assets, and they all get as better salary than they've ever had, and they all get as many contracts for each other. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And the UCC essentially became corrupted. And once they tried to get away with taking $2 billion of our Bitcoin and structuring it into a fund, the second major thing we did. So the first thing it did is try and get us to keep the Bitcoin. The second was try and get it where all the assets were distributed for free. Now, the third thing I had to do was get it where there was a competitive auction, because it wasn't even competitive. They said Bank to the Future doesn't qualify. You're not a US company. You're not in the gang. And so we managed to lobby and get a stalking horse. And then the stalking horse was designed so that you have a competitive auction, so that we could get that $2 billion of asset and negotiate it down so that we could get all our crypto back. And that worked. And if you remember, we were all stuck on a call for about 3 days listening to nothing while we were listening into an auction. And suddenly, out of nowhere, rather than just negotiating the deal where we got all of our assets back, they said, all right, we'll get that down. But now we've got this new company called Fahrenheit. And no longer are we having those people managing the fund. We're going to have these people do it. And surprisingly, they ended up switching partners rather than just negotiating the better deal where we got all of our crypto back. Fortunately, thanks to that process, we ended up getting our crypto back in the end. But that was the process we were all put through. So we end up with these new bunch of jokers. And why did they pick them? We know why they picked them, because they were the ones that were going to give them the job that the UCC ended up getting. And they promised them, we'll create a public company. And that public company sounded like, the underqualified UCC members could get a cushy job. At this point, the next thing, when I realized that was happening, I introduced them to a Class A team of miners. I'm talking about the people that created and invented ASICs, many of the chips, a team in China, a team in America that has scaled and built and been involved in the industry. They didn't want that team. They wanted the underqualified team that we have right now and a bunch of professional bankruptcy lawyers to run the damn company instead. So now we entered into the next phase. They didn't accept the qualified team. They didn't accept the bid to give everyone the assets for free. And we entered, into that next phase. They wanted to drag this out for another year. So more and more different companies would go bankrupt. And then we enter into Operation Choke Point 2.0. This is where the Federal Reserve and the SEC decided to systemically figure out a strategy to wipe out the crypto-friendly banks. And so we entered into a environment. I remember I was on a space on X, one of Mario's spaces, and suddenly Peter Thiel comes up. And Peter Thiel comes up and says, everyone needs to withdraw their money from Silicon Valley Bank. I'm withdrawing $11 billion. Withdraw your money right now because the Fed has hiked rates. People are selling bonds at a discount. They've got bad debt on there. This is 2023 at this point. And everybody needs to withdraw their money. So everyone withdraws their money. Silicon Valley Bank goes into distress. And then suddenly they knock on the door of Signature and Silvergate and say, hey, you're distressed too. Why? Because they had a blockchain network that was connected to FTX and all the other exchanges that was doing 24/7 fiat currency clearing via this network through Silvergate and Signature's technology. And so they proceeded to do a bailout scheme for the entire banking sector. If you remember, Credit Suisse was going down, UBS was going down, Silicon Valley Bank was going down. This was the largest bank bailout since Washington Mutual during the global financial crisis. So they decide that we'll bail out every bank apart from the 3 crypto-friendly banks. We're still in bankruptcy at this point. And based upon this, the price of Bitcoin starts pumping because people realize if banks screwed, I want my Bitcoin. And so the price of Bitcoin starts going up. And then they used Operation Choke Point 2.0 in order to shut down the crypto-friendly banks. And then BlackRock decided that they would apply for a Bitcoin ETF. And so BlackRock applies for a Bitcoin ETF. And Gary Gensler, the agent of the Federal Reserve, decides that we are okay with Bitcoin now. We're going to approve BlackRock to have the Bitcoin ETF. We'll also approve 12 other money managers as well. Fidelity, you can have one, and various other institutions, you can all have one. And then we enter into we go for another Christmas. They've rinsed out, probably about 300 million of client money at this time. I think FTX is on to about 800 million at this time. They're now auctioning off all of the upsides of all the assets, selling them off to the VCs so that creditors can, get their recovery from FTX. But the next game is that while all the other bankruptcies sold their Bitcoin and we managed to persuade our bankruptcy to keep the Bitcoin, I started lobbying the judge and saying, hey, if this gets to 100%, what happens? Remember, everyone was telling me, you're crazy. This won't happen. They won't keep the upside of the Bitcoin. I said, I'm looking at the bankruptcy law. The bankruptcy law very clearly states that if you get to 100% whole, it goes to the next creditor class. And the next creditor class is the Series B investors. And we had that massive battle with the Series B. What did they do? They basically took the Canadian pension fund's money when they'd invested the 750 million. And they said, hey, let's spend the lawyers 25 million. And then they got a 24 million settlement. Basically, lawyers just stole $25 million from the estate. It's just one big game for all the lawyers. They just like stealing pensioners' money. They don't care about anything else. And the lawyers that have fiduciary duties are meant to be doing this. Meanwhile, all this time, we managed to get Mashinsky, the UCC managed to get Mashinsky to leave. The examiner report was done. I think we spent maybe $12 million on a report, and half of the fraud that Mashinsky was involved in started to be released through a report. Still, then, Mashinsky's minions and lemons would then still tell us, no, this is all wrong. There's nothing wrong here. All good. Mashinsky was trying to save you and give you safer than a bank, and he got taken down by the banks throughout this whole thing, gaslighting throughout the whole process. But it became obvious, and the community wasn't falling for the shit anymore. They were no longer engaging in a sell short squeeze. They lost all their credibility, and they just became a niche community on the side, while we started to work on different types of plans and how to structure these assets. But the industry was deciding that it's time to strategically, through Operation Choke Point 2.0, under the Biden administration, with Elizabeth Warren that was being paid by the bank lobby, with Gary Gensler representing agents like SBF for the Federal Reserve, that it was time to give as much of our industry over to BlackRock and Fidelity and everyone. Now, this is when it was leading into Christmas 2023. And I presented to the judge either in January or Christmas 23 or January 24, I can't quite remember. Judge, we have to get out of bankruptcy right now. If the price of Bitcoin goes above 54,000 per Bitcoin, which I believe it will, then we could get rug pulled and they could steal our Bitcoin and give the upside to the next class of shareholders. And so the UCC then decided, opportunity. Why don't we say we're going to create a company, but because those Fahrenheit people that said they could be public, maybe they can't deliver what they can do. And they said they only needed 50 million. And they said they were going to put 50 million in, but they couldn't raise the 50 million. So it turned out they didn't have the money and they were just making empty promises. And so they then said, hey, I've got an idea. Why don't we say that rather than this being an orderly wind down, this is some kind of reorg, orderly wind down, and we'll take 225 million of creditors' money and put it into a public company, and then the UCC could take all the jobs. We'll pretend we're interviewing people. We'll pretend that we're opening up this process. And instead, all of the people involved in Chapter 11 suddenly just happen to be the ones that qualify for salaries and the 225 million, and to restructure these assets and create a Bitcoin mining company. And now they're going to call it, it's no longer Fahrenheit. Eventually, I can't remember the timing of this, it's going to be called Ionic Digital. And no, we don't want any of the qualified team. We just want the buddies that were involved in the Chapter 11. And we'll sign a contract with, it was called US Bitcoin Group at the time, I think, to manage all of the mining for us. And we'll just create a shell company around it and try and get public and get all this stuff audited. Still to this day, they're still trying to progress on the audit and make this thing public. So now BlackRock get the Bitcoin ETF approved. And the judge, I presented to the judge and said, Judge, we got to get out before Bitcoin gets to 54,000. Otherwise, we're going to lose our Bitcoin upside. They'll sell the Bitcoin and we'll be in a game. And so the UCC said, all right, now let's quickly restructure the plan. Everybody's voted on it. Let's change it to something that kind of fits in. But because we know that they have to get out now, the creditors will approve anything that's put in front of them. And we absolutely needed to. So hook, line, and sinkered, they got their 225 million, and we managed to get out before the price of Bitcoin went high enough that we were going to lose our upside. So then we start planning the exit. The industry becomes, more and more, institutionalized. The banks figure out, they launch the most successful Bitcoin ETF of all time. They get over 1 million Bitcoin in their ETFs. We move over to the Trump administration. Suddenly we entered into an environment of deregulation. Suddenly we enter into a crypto-friendly environment. And suddenly everyone in the Trump administration is launching their own stable coins and figuring out how to get as much Bitcoin as possible, just like Tether did, where they can back it by the US government debt at the end of a debt-based Ponzi scheme, and then use that high yield in order to buy Bitcoin and get as much Bitcoin as possible for those that work for the Trump administration. Okay, well, that's where we are now. And suddenly in the middle of that, Mashinsky decides to plead guilty. He tried everything he could. He switched lawyers. He had the same lawyer. Who was the same lawyer he had at one time? I think it was P. Diddy or SBF. I can't remember now. It was pretty wild. It was, didn't he have like Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer at one point? Sorry, I could be getting that completely wrong. But anyway, he had the types of lawyers that you only hire. I think it was Jeffrey Epstein. Someone will correct me when we start to bring people up. And then finally, rather than go to court and have to be on the stand like SBF did, Mashinsky decides to plead guilty for 2 counts, one of a couple of fraud cases. And then he kept delaying the court case and delaying the court case, pushing it over from the Biden administration to the Trump administration, so that he could probably try and get some kind of presidential pardon, last move to try and get out of this. And we end up where, after pleading guilty, he has his sentencing today. On my X feed, I've posted the video that I think, shout out to Chase from the Celsius documentary. Hopefully the documentary of this stuff's coming out at some point. I did an interview with Cam Cruz, and Chase has been putting that together. They're probably all together in a pub right now. Yeah, that's where we are right now. So how long is Mashinsky going for? So SBF gets 25 years. And if you look at the cover for cover process, they sentenced Mashinsky to 12 years. 12 years that will probably get out early on good behavior. Even though the victims of Celsius, I think, were significantly more harmed than FTX. FTX was basically a bunch of very rich creditors and then a long tail of very small creditors. But it was all the institutional type of traders that knew they were taking risk. Mashinsky was grandmothers, pensioners, lifetime savings, people that committed suicide, then didn't get their claim, people that had to change country. You know what it was all, because you all shared the journey with us. You remember the people that we lost in this process. But the judge thinks that Celsius was half as bad as FTX, even though the victims were significantly more harmed and were fraudulently treated, I think, on a different scale to FTX. FTX was just sensationalized. But why was FTX different? Because guess what? The government were involved in FTX. They were using that as a mechanism for laundering money over to weapons trading in Ukraine and bribing politicians like organizations like USAID that was essentially funding political bribing, as well as bribery with the Chinese Communist Party as well. And they had to pay a bunch of money. So they wanted all that to go away. So they didn't even trial it for the FTX case. But they decided that they needed to lock him up for 25 years, but Mashinsky would only get 12 years. What's the reason for it? The reason for it is because he served in the IDF, and he does great service to Israel, which is currently in the middle of basically genocide for the US government. And because of that, he only gets 12 years. And he'll probably get off earlier on good behavior. But anyway, we get to put an end to this chapter. And I just wanted to remind us all of the journey that we've all been through. And before I start bringing people up and everyone can share their story, this is your space, your time, share whatever you want, do whatever you want. I want to archive this. I'll put it up on YouTube so that when future documentaries and books are written about this in the future, the journey that we've been through, as Bitcoin essentially is, for some people, traumatizing them as it goes up to new all-time highs, and they have to calculate the Bitcoin that Mashinsky's got in Koala 1, Koala 2, and Koala 3, while they're watching the Bitcoin that they may or may not have recovered from, or maybe be able to get to. And it turned out that they had the highest performing asset in the world. We're watching right in front of us right now the same game being set up right in front of us by the very same banks and financial institutions that are now going out and saying, hey, everybody, borrow against your Bitcoin. Hey, everybody, don't buy Bitcoin, buy MicroStrategy shares. Hey, everybody, Elon's going to have a stable coin and it's going to be backed by an X social credit score. And we're going to pump the debt that we can't solve because we've got to roll over $10 trillion of debt right now in the Federal Reserve's debt-based Ponzi scheme that was the reason that Bitcoin was created in the first place. We're going to give those stable coins over to World Liberty Financial. And we're going to give those stable coins over to Elon Musk. And we're going to give it to Bank of New York Mellon. And we're going to give it to all of the banks and Visa and MasterCard and all the financial institutions so that they can take that yield and buy Bitcoin. And I'm telling you, the Federal Reserve is going to engineer the same pump and dump scheme. You know who it's going to be done by? Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary of the Trump administration, that is a discount broker dealer for the Federal Reserve, that is involved in the shadiest type of shit you could ever imagine if you look at his history, because he's going to engineer a scheme where he can get people to borrow against their Bitcoin so that people cannot pay the tax. And right now, all of them are doing the very same pitches that Alex Mashinsky did week in, week out of why you should borrow against your Bitcoin, why this is a reason to invest in the future of finance, why this is safer than a bank to do a collateralized loan. The same damn pitch. But you know what? It's now being done by the banks. And the banks have now got a deregulated environment where they get to socialize the losses and privatize the gains so that you get inflation and you pay with your tax while they make all the money shorting the dollar and going long Bitcoin. The moral of this story, the moral of this story is Bitcoin borrowed against is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin in MicroStrategy is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin in a BlackRock ETF is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin that is used and bought by a stable coin so that they can get the money from the US government's debt-based Ponzi scheme is Bitcoin that they would like to get from you. They want your Bitcoin. And they're doing the whole damn thing again. And SBF and Alex Mashinsky were the beta tests, and now it's going to be done on a bigger scale. But you know what? You're not going to fall for it. You know why you're not going to fall for it? Because you went through this pain. You went through this pain for a reason. And you're wiser to all the people that are about to fall for the same scam that's being done at the government level by the largest financial institutions in the world. You know why? Because the dollar is collapsing right in front of us, and they need your Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is the asset that everybody wants, everybody needs. It is the lifeboat, and every motherfucker wants to steal it from you. And you're wise enough now. You've learned the lesson. And I'm hoping that you've managed to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And I'm hoping that you've got it in self-custody and recognize that they're trying to tell you that these financial terrorists that have engineered the largest debt-based Ponzi scheme that has wiped out middle-class Americans, middle-class Europeans, middle-class Brits, that they've exported globally through the IMF that is funding wars all around the world right now, that proof of weapons network can only be combated by you boycotting the system and owning peaceful proof of work. And hopefully you've learned that lesson, because Mashinsky essentially gave us that lesson, if nothing else. And you tell me if justice was served. 12 years. His wife gets to keep the money. We did learn today that $48 million of his unjust criminal gains are going to be brought back to creditors. And apparently he bought 9 properties, or 9 real estate deals. So apparently those 9 real estate and 48 million has been forfeited. We've received our second distribution, and the Litigation Oversight Committee is working on pulling together the final bits of money for, at some point later this year, probably a third distribution. I'm hoping that you have all bought as much Bitcoin as possible with that, and just recognize that everybody at the highest level knows that this fiat currency debt-based Ponzi scheme is coming to its end. And they are asset stripping Americans, asset stripping Europeans, asset stripping Brits, and exporting inflation globally while they fund the very same wars to change the world order. And in this new order that we live in, Bitcoin is the lifeboat. Bitcoin is the thing that they can't control. And I'm sorry that Alex Mashinsky and Chrissy Mashinsky, who walks free this earth today, and Alex Mashinsky, that will be not with us for 12 years, I'm sorry he stole your Bitcoin. I'm sorry they lied to you. But I hope that you can find a lesson in all of this that takes you to a better place. And that's the story of Celsius. And now what I'd love for us to do, Mary, if you want to bring anyone up that wants to share their story. I'm sorry I
Absolutely.
talked for so long, but I just wanted to document this journey. It's been one heck of a journey we've been through for the last 3 years.
Man, holy blockchain. That Celsius bankruptcy rundown was like, for me, was reliving a crypto horror movie in slow motion. My heart's still racing, and I'm pretty sure I've got PTSD from all the suspended withdrawal flashbacks. I mean, I need a hug. I'm going to hug my hardware wallet right now. So
But
thanks
Mary,
for all that rundown.
I don't want to dox you or anything, but you've learned that lesson, right? You've managed to hug
Yes.
your hardware wallet. Let's call it that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't matter. That's my name, so everybody knows who I am. It doesn't matter. Yeah. No, hardware wallet. That's so important. You know, keep control of your crypto, of your Bitcoin. It's so important. You know, you've got a lot of things that are coming out. There's still a lot of scams that are happening out there. So you have to be very mindful of who you're listening to and what you're doing. Both things. So you know, I just ask everyone to please be careful out there and just read and study and ask as many questions. Come into spaces like this so you can just learn more. And don't believe everything you hear. Do your own research. This space is all about doing your own research. I want to thank everybody for coming here. Thanks, Simon, for all of that. Boy, that was a mouthful. If you want to come up onto the stage, please hit the request button. I will let you up. You know, we have some people up here. Nati, what do you think about all that?
Yes, this is great closure. I think we have to acknowledge the pain of the victim, and some justice has been served today for a functioning society. So regardless of one's opinion, if he get 12, 25, 30 years, he has been sentenced and recognized for his criminal deed. So this is the most important thing. And the takeaway of our 3 years is to, despite people losing major personal funds, is to move on, go on, put that behind us and take the lesson, learn self-custody, learn to study term of service if you rely on a platform where you deposit anything, and don't trust words. That's where how we got into that. And if you ever lend your coin, especially your Bitcoin, on the platform, again, as we are in a bull run right now, this is a trend. Bitcoin platform are being launched for lending. So check rehypothecation, proof of reserve, segregated account. And even if you are not tech savvy, try to learn self-custody. This is very important. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out that there's still a few major fights that are still happening. So Tony V, a creditor with Brett Parry, he's in court fighting the Ionic digital team So we'll find out what's happening there. Cam Cruz and the Litigation Oversight Committee, they're still doing all the final little battles. They're still fighting with Tether around the Bitcoin-backed loan that essentially I don't think was ever, the Bitcoin was never converted. It was just switched in terms of title. I'm not sure of all the details. And yeah, so we still got Ionic Digital, we still got the Litigation Oversight Committee. The fights. There's still, oh, and the clawback people are still settling and fighting as well. So still goes on. The lawyers still get to bill. Okay, Mary, do you want to call someone else out?
Yeah, Manran, go ahead.
Hey Mary, how are you? Hey Simon, how you doing?
Good.
It's good to talk to you guys. I think just to rehash, I was a creditor that lost, or I was liquidated loan. I had 83 ETH on the platform. My claim, because of my liquidated loan, ended up being for around like 30 ETH when it should have been for higher. And I thought seeing Alex Mashinsky get prison time today was going to be something that made me feel better. But honestly, man, watching the market rip today, you just wish that you had your assets and the financial implications that it has. Still feeling it today. Still trying to recover for it. I did some math on it. I'm expecting a child in 2 months, and man, if my kid's college would have been paid for, my mom's house would have been paid for. And now I'm having to start from scratch. So that's where I'm at. I hope things are going okay for everybody else. And I don't know, justice, I guess, was served, but man, I feel like our process was just the absolute most painstaking. Gemini was able to go give their creditors back one for one. I think FTX is going to make out better than us. It's just at every term it feels like we just got absolutely shafted. But I hope you guys are doing well, and appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, I can tell you. Unsupervised.
Oh, hi. Thank you. I just wanted to thank Simon. Simon, thank you so much for doing all the work you do to speak out and help so many of us consider, take other things and other things into consideration in the world with finance and governments. And even though some of it is sometimes hard to follow and maybe we don't always agree, you are, helping so many people open up our hearts and our minds to the world. And I just wanted to thank you deeply for that.
Okay, appreciate you. Yeah, it's been one heck of a journey. It really has. Thank you.
Shout out, Simon. You did a great job. Appreciate everything you did, man.
I tell you, it comes at a cost, man. You get a lot of abuse. We've all suffered a lot of abuse for doing this, isn't it? When you put your hand up and try and help people, people really want to take you down. But I tell you what, it really it helped me understand like the different psychology behind different people, and just actually to not give a shit what people try and do for you, and that's actually helps me to this day. The experience we got with all the abuse you get for this, I think it makes us into the people we are today.
All right, go ahead, Manny.
Hey guys, hey Simon. I want to thank you for all you do and all the information that you put out there, man. I couldn't imagine being in that position where you have your money, put somewhere on one of these platforms and you lose it all like that. Right now, I'm actually using Aave, and I borrow against my Bitcoin. I mean, I only borrowed 20% to buy more Bitcoin, and I actually deposited that as collateral. And I say that like it's nothing, but until something like this happens, it's something. So, I couldn't imagine going through that, and if it were to happen to me now, I'd be devastated. I would be pretty much losing everything. I'm sorry that happened to a lot of people, but now, how do you feel about Aave and that platform? I mean, is that something that you would consider how would you consider Aave as a platform?
Yeah, so me, I knew when I was borrowing against my Bitcoin that it violated my principles. I'm very anti-debt. Uh, I got into Bitcoin because it's hard money, and I believe in hard money, and I believe that it's a counterforce to the debt-based Ponzi scheme. And I personally believe that I violated my principles, so I got a little lesson, and I won't do such a thing again personally. Um, but if anyone is going to borrow against your Bitcoin, just recognize that that Bitcoin held as your collateral is no longer Bitcoin. And so if you're locking up some ETH or you're locking up some Bitcoin, recognize that you have terms and conditions, and there could be margin called. You could end up creating a taxable event for yourself if it moves very fast. You've got to have additional Bitcoin and additional ETH in order to meet the margin call if you want to prevent the taxable event and the liquidation. And so, therefore, only do it with money or crypto or Bitcoin or whatever that you're willing to lose. In which case, separate it from your core savings stack, and have that as your speculative investment stack. If you go into it, then you know the risks that you're taking, understand the risks, and then if you still think that's something worthy of doing, then ask yourself, if I lost all of that collateral, what is my financial position after that? And the only thing that saved me is I only did this with 1% of my funds. But we know people did it with 100% of their funds, because that piece of shit, Mashinsky, was more than happy to persuade people to do that. So in answer to your question, I do think DeFi is programmatic rules. There's different risks that are involved. You've got smart contract risk. Now you're involved in Ethereum or a different token in the ecosystem. It's not Bitcoin. You might be wrapping your Bitcoin. Now you've got additional custody risk, plus smart contract risk, plus margin risk. As long as you understand the risks, then you're an adult. You do what you do. Just make sure you learn the lessons, and you don't treat the Bitcoin held as collateral as if it were your savings. Because once you do that, you've switched one asset class for another asset class, and that asset class is now what would happen if I lost it all. And so that's all I'd say. I'm not going to endorse any particular platform. I think if you can use DeFi, there's just different risks. You're just swapping centralized risks for smart contract risks. And if you understand those risks, and you're doing it in a risk managed way, then go tinker, because I do think that DeFi is something that does need to exist. And that's part of the innovation of our industry.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Manny. Shia?
Hi, Mary, Simon. Thank you very much for the space and the platform for us to share. Simon, I know the last 3 years on behalf of the Celsius shareholders, and investors, I know it's been extremely tough. It's nice to get a little closure. Are we happy? Absolutely not, especially with what's going on today, seeing the rise. But, I want to just also, give you a shout out, because I know a lot of people were trying to drag you down when you had the best interest of all of us. And you were fighting for us. A lot of people tried to silence you, but you kept pushing. And I just want to say how much I appreciate. And it means a lot to me that you were working for all of us. Salam alaikum for that. Thank you very much, brother. And, just to share something a little about me, I started learning after Celsius, the terms do your own research and due diligence. I mean, it hurts me personally because, my brother, my brother and I, we came to this country from a war-torn country, worked when we started at 14 years old, doing it the right way, especially with my brother, he lost a lot. And he's 38 years old, and it just derailed him, And, I was the one that introduced him to that platform. And it hurts me every day knowing that, I had a hand in it. And, I wish I had learned more about do your own research. Had I known Mashinsky was a baby killer, an IDF soldier. I would have never invested in that shitty company. And I have one question. What about all his other associates who ran and fled to that pedophile, genocidal, and rapist entity occupying Palestine? Are they going to get justice, or what? Or they're going to be safe in that safe haven? And two, what about Christy Mashinsky? Are we going to get justice from her? Because she had a lot of collusion into everything. And any insights you can give us, I'd really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Okay, walaikum assalam, and appreciate you, brother. I think this is it, to be honest. I don't have faith that the system's going to do anything else. I don't want to make it into a geopolitics one, but I do believe that as a jurisdiction, Israel's going to pay for what they're doing right now. They are being strategically weakened. The dollar is changing. They gain their power from the dollar, and I don't want to turn it into that space, but I'm pretty sure that nothing's going to happen to them, other than some other type of justice that doesn't involve the legal system. And so I think Mashinsky going down for 12 years is it. And now it's just about any other types of recoveries that the team can pull in. But yeah, I don't have any faith in the system to do any more justice other than that. But I do have faith that karma is a bitch, and they'll pay in some other type of way, that we all, depending on whatever your beliefs is, that people will understand what I'm saying now.
Thank you very much, Simon. God bless. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing, Simon. I believe that everything what goes around comes around, and somehow, some way, it'll take care of itself. Eric, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hope you're well, Mary and Simon and everyone else. Simon, I'm so impressed with how you just gave that, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes of everything that's happened over the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know how you did that in such a short time. So kudos to you, and thanks, of course, for everything you're doing. So I have a few questions, going to go on a few different tangents, and then hopefully you can all tie it in. And I'll just ask them in like rapid succession. Are you surprised by the 12 years? Were you expecting more or less? Can he appeal that sentencing term? And there were other things that you went through pretty quickly and brushed over it. And I was actually shocked about all the different LLCs that he had. Where we were all aware of those different LLCs, but I thought that thus far all those LLCs have been liquidated and all those assets have been seized. But what you mentioned earlier is that these LLCs are still operating, for lack of a better term, and that the assets are still with these companies. Is that the case? And do we get access to those? And then Kate had tweeted out something from the court
Hey,
that
Eric, can we do one question at a time? Because I forgot my first two.
yeah, sure.
So first one, was I surprised? Yeah, I mean, nothing surprises me anymore. Like after the, side by side on top of this whole Celsius thing, which is massive, helping me understand how the US legal system and Chapter 11 bankruptcy process works, and then understanding I had no idea around like Celsius and the whole what was happening in Israel and that connection. I found that out like a lot later in the game, and then after that, I have zero faith in the legal system, in the judicial system, in the justice system. Zero faith whatsoever. So the fact that he got 12 years, I would have said he would definitely have got more than the SBF if justice was right. But it doesn't surprise me. I'm just very surprised that the comment came out that he gets 12 years because he served in the IDF. I was like, oh my God, do people not understand in today's day and age what that actually means? But anyway, I'm surprised it was that blatant, with the judge saying that you only get 12 years because of that. But no, doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I was hoping I think Yeah, let me leave it there. What was the second question? Is
Yeah,
there an appeal?
yeah,
I've been tuned out, Eric. I'm not. You know what I was like during the whole process. I
yeah,
gave everything I got while I could be of value to the process. And I tapped out at a certain point. Tony V's still going.
yeah,
Brett Parry's still going at the Ionic side. I know a bunch of people are still going at the clawback side. In terms of the lawyers, I admitted defeat a long time ago. I spent $1.6 million fighting lawyers of our company's personal money. It made zero sense to do it. And I knew that every penny you spend on this process leads to them spending your money 3 times over, plus you spending your money. And they know that that's the game. They'll outspend you and they're spending our own money. That was always the game of Chapter 11. They're just the further you fight, the more they win. And the system is rigged. It was set up for lawyers by lawyers against the interest of consumers. And unfortunately, in understanding and being more actively involved in some of this war stuff, I've lost so much faith in the system in terms of how it all works. So I have no idea whether it will be appeal or whatever comes next. I
Uh,
just tuned out.
Simon, if I may,
Yeah, go for
I'm
it,
going
Natty.
to take that. So, as per the plea deal agreement, what his lawyer and Mashinsky agreed to was to not to appeal any sentence of 30 years or less. So normally, this party won't appeal, and then it will be only a reduction of sentence for good conduct and so on, but no appeal. He's sentenced to 12 years period. The second information from this sentencing is that he will start only in September, so he is not going in custody day one. He will be still on bail in a restricted travel, and he will be taken in custody on self-surrender in September. So this is kind of fucked up, but this is what it is. But no appeal on the sentence. That was the plea deal, even if you can judge the sentence to be low. Thank you.
thanks, Natty.
Thanks, Natty.
So Simon, my other questions is not related to the sentencing, but about those LLCs, and if those LLCs still have assets, can we get them? And there was something in the courts that Kate had pointed out that he obviously has a trust set up. I'm not an expert when it comes to trust at all. To my knowledge, the trust does shield us from getting those assets, unless I'm mistaken. So, what do you know about us being able to get his trust? And I've always been
Yeah.
I was going to say
Uh,
I've always been confused why none of us have really spoken out, and I don't even know if it was even legally possible to do. But now that we know his sentence is 12 years, for every 300 million he returns, we take a year off his sentence. I don't know why that, if that can legally be done, or why that wasn't even discussed as part of the process, because we all know, or at least I believe, that he's hiding these digital assets. He's a pretty savvy guy, so he's hiding digital assets, and let's get as much of those assets as possible. He should be stripped of everything he owns, trusts, digital assets, whatever, and then just take some time off of his sentence. That's how I look at it.
yeah. So throughout the bankruptcy, the Koala 1, Koala 2, Koala 3, they were treated as different entities that were connected to insiders. And then Mashinsky, if you remember, sometimes up in the court, he would actually get his lawyers in to try and make sure that he was treated fairly, if you remember. And then he even set up a ad hoc group with the squeezers in order to make sure that he got maximum value for his sell token. The types of shit. This guy is like no shame, no remorse. But during the DOJ letter, I tapped out at this point. But during the on the DOJ letter where they recommended 20 years, if you read it, I linked to it on my blog, or I'll link to the blog that I sent to everyone if you got the email, where it said that he's not remorseful because he's still holding on to money through those trusts. And the way trusts are structured is they're designed for asset protection and legal structuring. So they're not Mashinsky's assets, they're the trust asset, and that's the way the legal system works. And this is how people use these structures. And allegedly, it was money that was deposited before. I don't know what went in during and after, but this is over to the litigation oversight committee. It's above my pay grade at this time. So that would be, the likes of Cam Cruz and everyone, what they're going to be doing with insiders. But yeah, I just don't know is the answer to that, Eric.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Eric. Good talking to you. Hey, Khaleesi, how are you?
Hey, Mary, thanks so much. I'm good, thank you. Listen, I joined this space just to listen to it. I wasn't part of anything that Simon was speaking about. But obviously I've followed this journey a little bit since Simon's done spaces. Simon, since you've done spaces on it. And to sit here on this panel for the last half an hour and listen to the stories of all the individuals and, the loss that they've suffered and the journey that they've been through, it's an absolute honor and a privilege. I'm humbled to be here amongst you guys because I sense your pain. I sense your personal loss, your family. Somebody said about their children's college fees and stuff. But then, do you know what? You still got the courage to be here. Your courage is applaudable and that you can't buy. No matter how much financial loss you've suffered, you've got enormous courage. And Simon, I salute you for this journey to be here, to share your knowledge and continue to share what you've learned with people. That's all I really came to say. I'm privileged to be here amongst all of you, and you're all warriors in my eyes. So thank you so much for having me and letting me speak.
Yeah, thanks, Khaleesi. I know Khaleesi through different work that we've done in that anti-war stuff, human rights stuff, and activism stuff. And Khaleesi's always standing up for those that are oppressed and those that that's why I think you can relate to this. And so yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you on all of the anti-war stuff, and it's a journey. So thanks for coming up. And
Thanks, Khaleesi. Yeah, yeah, please follow her. Her spaces are wonderful. Very heartfelt. Yeah, thanks, Khaleesi. Appreciate those words. Go ahead, Goat.
Hey, Simon, brother, you are like the best example of a good fucking Jew. Excuse my French. You, bro, I think there needs to be a lot of people in these spaces, but I've been following you for a while throughout before this SPF thing. They were people who threatened this guy's life. There were people who threatened to do harm to this dude. There were people who said so much stuff to Simon because of this. And I hope, by the grace of God, that these people will be human enough to come on this space right now and just say, Simon, I was wrong. Because, man, I was in these spaces and I witnessed it, the way people treated this brother, and all he was trying to do was show you the light. So please, anyone who's in these background spaces, be a man, man up, just come and give this brother his flowers, apologize to the guy, because he's legit. Best Jew on the planet, bro. Thank you, my brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. And just for clarity, my father, who passed away the same day Mashinsky closed, he was Christian. My mother, who passed away a couple of years later, she's Jewish, and by faith, I'm a Muslim. So I just want to be clear, whatever that definition puts in people's minds.
Oh yeah, well, I was just going by the way the Jews, they say that if you were
The
born from
Israel's
Jewish mother,
definition, yeah.
yeah. But man, you're a good man, brother. Enough respect, bro.
Wow, thanks so much for that energy. That's great energy, Goat. All
Yeah,
right,
appreciate you, brother.
Steve and Ivan.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Okay. Wow. Today's a red letter date for sure. And I think, Simon, your summary was like more than off the charts. I mean, I think everyone has what's that called? PTSD from reliving every single moment of everything you brought up. But it was a cleansing. It was like, okay, it's now finished. It's over. And I just had one thing to say, but I wanted to mention something I was thinking about, and Eric kind of brought it up, and it goes back to what you said, Simon, zero trust in any judicial system. I mean, Mashinsky had years to hide his money. It's like having a police do a drug bust and then busting these guys that are cooking drugs and then giving them 3 years to hide everything before they bring them to court. It's so totally ludicrous that they gave him this time to arrange. These trusts were not made before Celsius was around. They were done post. And it's absolutely scamming again for all of us. Anyway, it's done. It's over. It proves that one cell is one cell, and they're hodling with Alex for, I don't know, 12 years. That'll be great. But I wanted to throw out an idea. Maybe it's a bad idea because maybe it's not even today, May the 8th. Maybe it should be September the 1st. A United Celsius kind of, let's all have a toast to, to 12 years in jail, like a holiday. We could come up with a good name, put some positive energy on the fact that Alex is in jail. It doesn't bring back our investments. By the way, I'm 74 years old and I got my kids involved, and we've all been through all the tears and all the years, and now kind of it's behind us in our rear view mirror. So job well done, Simon. And if we could come up with a good name for a good holiday, we're going to go out, have a drink tomorrow night. And we're going to call it the Mashinsky Method Meal. I don't know for a better name than that. But anyway, God bless you guys. Take care.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious that Mashinsky was reading a book, writing a book, and the book was on Amazon and never got to the end. And it was called The Mashinsky Method. And it was like, I can't remember what it was. Someone will remember, like the 10 steps to transforming your finance or something like that, where he definitely transformed people's finance, and he had to pull the book. But he was still trying to publish that book, even while this whole thing was in bankruptcy, and he got forced off to it because some people reported to Amazon and stuff. But yeah, the Mashinsky method is, I think, appropriate. I did invest in Chase's documentary. There's something called like Celsius documentary. And so I think when that comes through, I did like some interviews, and he interviewed a lot of the creditors and stuff. So I look forward to seeing that. And the documentary can live on. But yeah, it was June the 12th. I remember now. That for me, because it was the same day my father passed, and the same day it went into the pause. And so that will always be a memory date. June the 12th, 2022. So it's maybe some kind of. I think someone needs to turn something into it. I think the community's pretty good at this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think on that day, I was actually, my wife and I, we were getting our long-term resident visas to live outside the USA that we were going to live on, with our Celsius interest. But it happened on that day. And so, yeah, that's kind of like outstanding date for us as well.
Well, I hope your plans come through, brother.
We moved. We're out. We're good. We're south. And we're happy and we're surviving. And, justice.
Lovely. Where are you retiring?
Well, I'm not retired. I'm kind of retired. I'm in Mexico right now.
Mexico. Nice.
Right. But I was going to say, the wheels of God's judgment grind exceedingly slow, but exceedingly fine. And what goes around comes around. And like you said before, karma is a bitch. So it's a celebration day today in some ways.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. That's the ultimate punishment is our relationship with God. So yeah, no doubt about that. Whatever the judge does.
True words. Mr. Wise? Hey, Mr. Wise, you want to unmute? Okay, I'm going to go on to Lily Fee. I'm not sure. Simon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, we can. No issue. Nice, Lily. Come on.
Lily, we don't hear from you. Come on, speak up.
What a warrior.
Maybe Lily doesn't know how to unmute himself.
You need to tap the mic button, Lily.
Hi.
There you are. Hi.
Wow, it's the
Can you hear
real.
me?
Can the real Lily please stand
Okay,
up?
first time I speak. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it has been very emotional to listen to all this. I mean, first to read about the court, what was happening and everything, and now. And it's very late where I am. I'm about to tap out soon. But yeah, I guess 12 years is not exactly what we expected, but it is what it is. And we will see what happens until September, right? And the whole community has been very helpful all the time. It was a rough time, but we also have to move on. Thank you all for always being here. And now it looks like Tony is successful with Ionic. I don't know, he was teasing something. Nati, do you know?
Is he still in court?
I don't know.
Yes,
He posted
he
a
posted
picture.
a cryptic picture.
Yeah, he was teasing something. It looks successful. So let's see what's going on over there.
Yeah, hopefully he'll
Okay,
come up.
guys.
Hopefully he'll come up soon. Natty, message him,
Okay.
isn't it? See if he can come up.
Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you all. Have a good night.
I'll text him.
My
Thank you,
guess
Lily.
my guess is Tony and Cam are about four to five shots in right now. Hopefully.
Yeah, I reckon they're in the pub with Chase.
Yeah, they can care less about our little spaces right now.
Joe was with
Probably,
him too,
probably.
Joe Lair. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna step down. Okay, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Lily. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thanks,
Thank
Lily.
you.
Hey,
Wow,
Justin. Oh, go
Lily's
ahead.
been like on this whole process, and to hear your voice, I haven't ever heard your voice, so it's surreal.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Good. Hi there.
Hey there.
Yeah, this is a big day. It's thanks Simon for everything you've done in the space and with this topic in particular. I guess the only thing I wanted to mention was let's just be aware and let's, eyes wide open, fool me once, can't get fooled again, right? Like it seems as though we're watching in front of our eyes like some who we would imagine are respectable people in the space trying to do the same thing. I don't know. I guess.
I know.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. What was that?
I agree with you, Justin. And again, I'm not trying to pass judgment on anyone because, let's just call a spade a spade. I called out Jack Mallers for his strike service and the loans that he's doing, but I wasn't calling him out. But he's also doing a public company with SoftBank, who has direct access to the Bank of Japan, which is essentially a Ponzi scheme in order to pop up assets. He's partnering with Cantor Fitzgerald, Howard Lutnick, somebody I have very little respect for, but is rinsing the government right now to make as much money as possible. And he's offering, their firm is the one that's holding the bonds behind Tether, and is also launching Bitcoin lending services, and also with their firm is directly connected to the Federal Reserve as a dealer, is also on the Trump administration, and is also working with Tether. So they're doing a public company, and at the same time he's launching a borrow against a Bitcoin service at Strike. I'm just saying, even if he is just he's swimming with sharks right now, this is some deep state people that he's hanging
Exactly.
out with, and this goes to the highest level, and I can promise you, the same game that FTX and Mashinsky and Barry Silbert and Zach Prince and
We're gonna have a little finance meeting after dinner, okay?
all of these
Welcome
people
to
put
our finance.
together, they're setting up the same game, but at the Federal Reserve level. So watch out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, and it's sad to see. I don't understand why Mahler's is doing it specifically, but yeah, it's unfortunate, and let's just all be aware that it seems to be happening again. So let's not be surprised.
Yeah, he's in the financial mafia, and once you're in that circle, you can't leave. You can't leave. So maybe it's ignorance, I don't know, but he's in a circle where he's going to get eaten alive.
Mr. Tony V is up on the stage. Hey, Tony.
Tony V.
Can you hear? Maybe he's doing another
It's
shot or
like
something.
it's like waiting for an election results. Everyone's got their ear to the phone now, waiting for Tony to speak.
Hey, sorry guys. What's going on?
Tony, are you drunk? Are you in the pub? Are you in court? Are you delirious?
Celebrating.
No, I actually
Who's
we
eating a
actually
bag
just,
of crisps?
we actually just left court. We got another hearing tomorrow. Not looking good for Ionic, I'm not gonna lie. They were forced to disclose some more operational issues that they had. I mean, I had low expectations, but I think my expectations were too high. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. It's actually kind of crazy. This company is ridiculous.
Yeah, the final rug. Like, how long do you think the final rug goes on for, Tone? Like, do you think it out? Where do you think it goes?
For Ionic, the way it's currently situated, probably going all the way to zero.
Yeah, but do you think they're going to try and drain all the Bitcoin, or like, what do you think comes next?
I mean, I'm not even sold that they're trying to take the Bitcoin. I think they're just so lost that they're just going to spend it.
Yeah,
Like, I don't even think they're going to get anything out of this. They're just going to destroy everyone's recovery, and then for nothing.
Hey, Tony, going back to the courtroom, you were in there. What was Alex's demeanor and Chrissy, and what did you observe?
Oh no! We have the Delaware trial against Ionic. I wasn't at the Mashinsky trial.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought you went from one to the other. Sorry about that.
No, that's like 4-hour drive. Plus, I had to testify. It was a whole mess.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, we got one more day tomorrow, and then we'll just be waiting on the judge. You know, probably sometime next week we'll get her ruling. I feel really good. If I was them, I wouldn't feel good at all. I don't know if I can go into too many details, but I mean, it's bad. I mean, you'll see the transcript once it's out. Fuck it, we'll just post it. I don't think we have to hide it. It's a public courtroom. You guys can read for yourselves how badly this company is being run.
Yeah,
yeah.
besides,
Just for clarity, let me make sure everyone understands. So there's there's a few different tracks that are happening right now. So Cam Cruz was at the Mashinsky trial, and I think he said a few words because like the first person that came up on the stand was like his lawyer, some simp that was saying how Mashinsky is such a great character. He wrote a book on gravity, and he's 60 years old, and he's a lawyer. You know, he serves, and you can see the thread. And then some like I think Mashinsky managed to find a creditor that would put in some good words, and then we had Cam Cruz and some others. So Cam was firstly there to kind of give the judge some words as a victim. But he's part of this whole litigation oversight committee and suing Tether and suing all these other different interests. Tony's gone on his own track. So obviously Tony was originally involved in the custody ad hoc, then the loan ad hoc, and then started getting involved in like Ionic and Earn stuff. But now, he's going on his own track to try and take Ionic down a different path. Ionic is a completely different entity. The Litigation Oversight Committee is suing whatever's left, including insiders. Ionic is its own company that's meant to go public, meant to complete an audit, meant to have a board, and meant to be maximizing the value of the mining assets. I did a space in case you missed it, and created a blog where you can get yourself up to date with what Tony's doing and the voting stuff. So that's like a separate track. So there's like 3 different tracks, and then today was just Mashinsky getting trialed for his 12 years. So Tone, what do you think about 12 years?
I mean, it's light. Um, I thought he should get at least 20. Um, I'm not buying the crocodile tears. He's probably upset that he got caught, that he has to face repercussions, but he doesn't give a shit about anybody. He doesn't care, whose money he lost and whose retirement and whose life savings. He only cares that he now has to face justice. He should have got more, in my opinion.
Yeah, cool. All right, Mary, so we bring up some other people as well. Tone, feel free to hang around as well.
Yeah.
I actually got to run. I just want to jump in real quick. I'll
Are
talk
you
to you
with
guys later.
like the hangout with a bunch of people, or are you just on your own? Was the court case? Where was it? Was it near where Mashinsky was, or completely different place?
No, it's in Delaware,
Oh,
Georgetown,
so that was in Delaware, and where was Mashinsky? Was he in New York?
New York. Yeah, I'm actually going
Okay.
to the lobby. I'm going to meet Chris and Brett. I can have them say hi.
Nice.
Mm. Um,
Okay, well, Tone, feel free to come back if you want, but yeah, we'll get an update from you when when you're able to disclose stuff.
yeah, if
All right,
anyone wants to come
I'll
up on
talk to you later.
stage, just hit the request button and I'll let you on up. So I've got David Blendon up.
Hey guys, look, just a really quick one, and I know this would be speculation, but what would be a very approximate estimate of the amount of money that Mashinsky has hidden and will benefit from after his very short sentence completes?
I don't have an answer for that at all. Couldn't even guess.
Is it in the hundreds of millions?
Yeah, literally no answer. I don't have anything to base it on.
Well, he did set up those trusts post, correct?
Well, there was a bunch of trusts that had accounts on Celsius, and I think those values were disclosed, but a bunch of them withdrew a load of money. Cam would know more if he comes up. But what other structures he has, and I couldn't even begin to guess.
And also, I might be a bit behind on this, but I was reading something about, was it 3 years probation, or the probation comes after the 12 years? I just guess I'm wondering, the 12 years is going to change into something less with good behavior and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, most likely. Unless they put him in a cell with Diddy and SBF and they all go to the same place. But I think he requested a different location.
It's not much of a disincentive to commit this kind of crime in future, because I do suspect that Mashinsky is coming out of this whole exercise with millions upon millions of our dollars hidden away in various trust funds or various crypto wallets, and to come out with basically a slap at, and the dog doesn't like it either. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, David. Simon, I don't have any requests at the moment, so
Okay, well, unless anyone wants to come up or say anything right now, then we'll just close
Hey,
up. I think we.
hey, Simon, I think also, like with all of these professional scammers, I think it's always wise if you are going to steal a lot. Because all of the people who really get severe punishment is the guy who goes and steals a six-pack from the liquor store, gets like 3 years in prison, and the guy who slaps a person on the street. But when you commit a crime, I think that's the lesson we all need to learn from all of these people. If you do decide to steal, make sure you steal a lot so you can pay for all the fancy lawyers and you can live a healthy life, and you have a lot of money to hide away and kind of come back and be a rich person after. CZ is in the same position. Every single one of these scammers who stole from people. Because if you can afford to pay that high price and then come out richer, I mean, it becomes worth it for everyone. It's almost like going on a college vacation. You know what I mean? And coming out rich at the end of the day. So I think that's the strategy. These people, we're normal people. When we think about it, I don't want to spend one day in jail, so I'm scared to steal. But these guys are like, if I got to spend 10 and come out and be stinking rich and free after, they take that gamble, and that's what they're aiming for. So I think we're going to keep seeing more of these people coming in along in our time.
Yep. Hey, Crypto Hunter, how you doing? Crypto Hunter, can you hear me? Okay.
He's showing as listener for me. He was a speaker and then
Okay.
he
He
dropped.
dropped back down. And then Edward, did you want to say something before we closed up? Well, let me see.
Yes, I just wanted to mention to Simon, I have deep respect for you, Simon, particularly when you your ability to convince the judge to we get the proceeds in Bitcoin as opposed to a cash out. So I have deep respect for you, Simon. The other thing I want to mention was that I hope Mashinsky gets assigned to the Metropolitan Correction Center in Brooklyn, New York. That's one of the roughest prisons in the state of New York. That's where Sam Bankman-Fried is, Sean Diddy Combs, and that's where Jeffrey Epstein was held before he died. So let's all hope he ends up there and hope the judge denies him the ability to get transferred to a different prison. So thanks again, Simon. You're the best.
Thank
So
you.
FYI, Sam Bankman-Fried was transferred from Brooklyn because the interview he did with what's that guy's name? He did
Tucker
an
Carlson.
interview with Tucker Carlson, and that interview was done illegally. He managed to smuggle in contraband, a phone, and was able to connect that phone live to do a live interview. So Sam Bankman-Fried suffered some serious consequences for that interview, and Tucker Carlson didn't face any consequences for doing it. So yeah, Sam's in some way, I think, in like Arizona, in some even worse prison than Brooklyn.
Wow, thanks for sharing that, Go. I didn't know he did that interview behind the back. I had no idea. That's remarkable. He's just zero respect for law, like
Yeah. So
zero
you
respect for rules.
remember just weeks before he did the interview, his Twitter account started tweeting for the first time, and it was kind of amazing that like the guy's in prison and he was tweeting on his Twitter account, and that was because somebody smuggled a phone into him, and he was starting to kind of expose that. So I think these guys are connected with the whole system, the governmental system, and they just playing us in our face.
Wow, I didn't even know any of that. Crypto Hunter, can you hear me this time?
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Awesome. Yeah. I just wanted to come on and I hope that we can keep doing these spaces because I think that there's a really cool community here. And I think a lot of people follow this journey, and just want to say thank you, Simon. And also just side note, that series you have right now about following the money and the war, it's probably one of the most fascinating things that I've been watching. So, your content is amazing, and going to keep following that. But yeah, just obviously a big day for Celsius Creditors. I think just one thing I wanted to say was just fuck you to Chrissy Mashinsky. I think I saw a video today where she was dressed up like she was going to the Met Gala beside Alex walking into that courtroom, and I just thought that was just absolutely ridiculous. So, the main thing I'm interested in now is kind of like what you say, Simon, is follow the money. And like Alex has stated in his videos that
Sorry, Crypto Hunter's speaking at the moment. You might not be able to hear him. Carry on, Crypto Hunter.
yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I am still unclear how Alex has the money to pay for all of these legal expenses, and how Chrissy is still going to Knicks games. And I don't know what's happening with their penthouse apartment in New York, but Alex has stated that all of his money was on Celsius Network. So they should be on the side of the street as far as I'm concerned, and have no more money left, and all that money should be going back to Celsius creditors. So I'm hoping that people continue doing the investigation, and we, if they're storing money in off chain or in trust funds or in Israel or whatever they're going to do, we should just make sure we hold them accountable.
Yeah, out of everything, I've got a lot of faith that Cam Cruz ended up on the litigation oversight committee, because I just got so much time for Cam Cruz, and I just really appreciate the work that he's done, and I think we had a really good one on our team for the litigation oversight committee. With the Ionic side, not so good. So I mean, how we ended up in that, like, Ionic stuff all over again. But we'll see. But yeah, I've got a lot of faith that if there is money to be recovered, that Cam Cruz is doing all he can to get that back. I think we got a good one on our team now.
100% agree with you on that. David Blendon, have you spoken yet? David? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah. I've said everything I wanted to say. It's just really disappointing.
All right, thanks, David. Hopefully we'll be able to close this one chapter. Let's see, Daniel, go ahead.
Hi everyone. Simon, thank you so much for everything. I'm hearing you since the day one. I'm from Argentina, and listen, Argentina is a country that have very high rates of inflation. So we found crypto and invested in crypto, and Bitcoin was just a safe haven. And in my case, I made the mistake to invest in Celsius. But I'm listening to all these stories, and my advice is just go ahead, find peace. At the end of the road, it's only money, okay? And I'm saying this in a country that just in December 2023 had 25 points of inflation. So
So hold on, can you
if
repeat that? You say 2023 has 2025 points of
yeah,
inflation. Can you define
yeah,
that? Because I stand here before you.
yeah,
I've lived through all these years. I find myself not suffering from that. So why are you suffering from that? What did you do
yeah,
wrong?
look, it's really crazy, and I'm saying this because I have contact with the United States economy, the Brazilian economy, because my mother is from Brazil, and it is like living in a fucking weird place, man. It's really you
Yeah,
don't
but
have.
cross nationalism. You're using your multiple passports to excuse what you did.
No. The point is, I'm trying to describe
Hold on,
that.
what's going on here? What are we
Maddie, I'm
discussing?
sorry, but in this space, we allow someone to continue their thought before cutting in. I'll give you your time, but if you can just let Daniel say what he wants to say, please don't interrupt. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. We can talk after this. But the point is, I lost money here. That's right. Um, I don't know if I'm happy or not with this. Uh, with what happened today. But at the end of the day, my advice to all of you is just go ahead in peace, because at the end of the road, it is only money. And I'm trying to send this message with love, with peace, because I live in a very, really hard place, just in the economy, speaking. And well, just send my message and say to you all, in special, Simon, thank you so much for all your efforts, and God bless.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, Maddie, go ahead.
First of all, Daniel, I love you very much. What a great man you are. I think that it's very admirable for someone. Not that you're like it came off wrong. Never mind. I'm gonna restart my whole sentiment. Mary, I think that it's difficult for people these day and age. They want to like come in and they want to talk about like, oh, you should do this or you should do that with crypto. It's impossible to believe anyone, right? I mean, who believes anyone these days? Do you believe anyone? Do you believe me? Do I believe you? Do you believe Daniel? Who believes who?
Well, that's why this whole premise of blockchain and crypto is about doing your own research.
Yeah, I have a
So,
cold
so
storage. I have
this
3 of
space,
them,
so
and
Maddie, this space is all about a court case that happened today with Celsius. It's been what 3-4 years running now. So that's what we're discussing. We're letting a lot of people that have been affected by this, and there's a
well,
lot of people that have been hurt.
then I'm nothing but a big butthead,
No,
and
you're
I
fine, Maddie.
apologize
You're fine, girl. So I thank you for coming
because
up
I
on the
think that
stage.
you're great, and I think that you're fantastic, and I wish I would have never interrupted you
Yeah,
in your pursuit of whatever it is that's going on behind me over there with that
no worries.
nonsense. I mean, I don't want to call it nonsense. Obviously, it's something very important. If you always you said it was
No
important,
worries.
so it's
Thank
got
you.
to make
Thank you for
sense.
coming up on the stage, though, Maddie. Really appreciate it.
All right, bye bye
All right,
now.
thanks.
Hey,
All right, thanks.
be good.
You too. Hey, Robert, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi. I just like to thank you, Simon, and all the speakers. But Simon, uh, there's no other words that I can describe. And a lot of people think very highly of you. I can't add much more to that other than I think the world needs more Simons. And I'll step off the stage. Thank you very kindly, Simon, for all you do.
Thank you very much, Robert. But this really was a team effort. It definitely was. Like I've taken a back seat recently. I think if you meet yourself, Robert. But you know, and everyone, like, there are more people like soldiering on right now. Tony V is still at the Ionic fight. Cam Cruz is still at the litigation oversight committee fight. Others are still fighting the clawback fight. You know, I've moved on to other stuff right now, and this was 100% a team effort. No other bankruptcy was like this. Like, when we had all our spaces, the trials and tribulations we went through, no one else had a bankruptcy like ours, and no one had a community that got together and just did what we did. And for the rest of my life, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget what we all experienced together. And you know, good or bad, it was a memorable part of our life, and all a part of our journey. And I think it all happened for some reason. And if you haven't discovered what that reason is yet, I know I have. I know I've discovered exactly why I was put through this, and I think everyone will have their own reason why they went through this. And just make sure you turn this into something meaningful for you, because I believe we were put through this for a reason.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you, Simon. You know, you've been through a lot with the loss of your father, and then, you know, all of these things that have happened with Celsius. And, you know, even myself going through the loss of my sister. And, you know, there were just so many things that have happened. There's so many stories that are out there of people being hurt. So the fact that this community came together and we were able to have the space and, you know, share our stories. And Simon, you know, hosted these spaces. So thank you absolutely for helping so many people out there understand and navigate through this. As you said before, if we didn't have this space, my gosh, I just don't know where we would have been. Not really, we would have been by ourselves pretty much, not being able to navigate through all of these horrors that we went through. Like I said, it was a complete nightmare, and I have PTSD from it. So thank you, Simon. AJ, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, good afternoon, party people. I
Chris
do
DeRose. Do you know who Chris DeRose is?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, AJ, do you know who Chris DeRose is?
No, I don't.
All right. So if you're an old school Bitcoiner, go back. There was a podcast. The very first podcast in Bitcoin was called Bitcoin Uncensored. and it was a guy called Chris DeRose, and he used to start it with, "Hey, everybody, party people." So you just remind me of that, and this was like a long time ago. If anyone remembers those days.
Awesome. Yes, I like to spread a little positivity and cheer. So I usually enter the space with the love and light, party people. By the way, Max, I'm checking out your page, man. You're pretty awesome, dude. We'll have to chat in the DMs. So I do buy crypto, but this is actually very new news to me. I mean, there's so much to keep up with out there. So I have a practical question for the speaker panel. Are there any stocks that are companies traded on the stock market that are connected to Mashinsky's business dealings or company, and where these stocks might be plummeting and you could capitalize by purchasing puts this week or tomorrow? Are there any stocks connected?
Short answer, no.
I'm sorry, what?
Short answer, no. It didn't have any public companies, but we are meant to get a public company at the end of this, but it's looking increasingly likely that we won't. But we're meant to get a Bitcoin mining company, but we'd all be long, and we're all the shareholders, so we definitely want to. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure if that thing ever goes public, I'm not sure if there's going to be people lending their stock to be able to put some puts on it, but appreciate that.
Thanks, AJ. Hey, Glenn.
Sure thing.
Oh, hey there. I'm up.
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes, brother.
Okay. Hey, first of all, greetings from the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and it is an unbelievably beautiful day today. Sorry I'm late to this space. Regarding Mashinsky, I'll just kind of identify myself a little bit. I'm retired and a good amount of about low six figures into this whole thing, and it was because of Celsius why I got involved in crypto. I sold my business at the end of 2020, and that's when I started my painful education in crypto. However, I think it's turning out well, and I just can't say thank you enough to people like you, Simon, and Tony and Cam, and I don't know, it's got to be hundreds of other people, I would guess. Just without you guys, we never would have made it through all this. So I really, really, really appreciate that. Regarding Mashinsky, justice is done, like it or leave it, whatever. Personally, from a human standpoint, I forgive the guy, but that does not exonerate him from what he has to face as a consequence of what he did. But anyway, I'll get off here. But thank you so much, Simon. You're still on. I wanted to say thank you to Tony, but like I said, I got in here late. So bless you all. Take care.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn, I'm glad you said that because, part of healing is forgiveness too. You don't forget, but part of healing absolutely is forgiveness. So having said that, Elizabeth, go right ahead.
There we go. Hello?
Yep, we can hear you, Elizabeth. Hi.
Well, I'm not someone who lost a lot of money, but I lost all my money. And I lost my brother at the same time. Oh, I'm going to cry. So now I have to go back to work, and I'm putting $200, $300 a month back into Bitcoin. And I truly believe I can, I can't make up the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I lost, but at least that is my only hope because of the geopolitical situation. So maybe I and the rest of us can rebuild and not feel like they've lost everything. So there we go.
Elizabeth, sorry to hear about your brother. That's the biggest loss you can ever, having lost my sister during this time as well. That's the biggest loss you could ever lose. Not any crypto, not any money, nothing.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
What was your brother's name?
Paul.
Paul. I'm lifting up Paul. I hope Paul is up in heaven talking to Carmen right now. That was my sister's name. So,
well, I pray that my brother had a very painful life and he committed suicide. So I always think he was he hit his head in a sports accident and he lost who he was. You hear about these football players and so forth. And he became someone I didn't know. So I think he's in a much better place. And I pray that God wraps him in sunlight and that he is, and I know that he's there. So money is not the most important thing, but he was always my best friend my whole life. So you're right, that was the worst of it, but I will be fine, and we'll all be fine, because pain is something that you grow through. I think you grow through it. So I'm trying to grow through it, and money's not that important. Just now I can see the birds outside. I can sit with my dog, and times are tough financially, but at least I have what God gave me, and that's the ability to see the beauty in life and the beauty in nature and the beauty in all of us that are in this space.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I pray for peace for Paul. And I thank you so much for coming up, Elizabeth. Really appreciate you. Simon, we just have one more speaker, and I just brought him up. Ibra Diop. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if I said it incorrectly. But Ibra Diop.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah,
You're really quiet.
we can barely hear you.
First time, a long time listener, first time.
Yeah, we can't hear you, brother.
Can
We
you?
can hear you like really muffled in the background. Have you got your Bluetooth on or something? Maybe take
Yeah,
it
I
off.
got my Bluetooth.
Yeah, if you could take them off, unless you're driving.
Yeah, we can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Simon. Oh, wait. You know what, Justin, you're up here. I'm so sorry. Ibra, if you can figure out your microphone, and I'm going to let Justin go ahead.
Yeah, I just again, thanks for this space, Simon. This is I wasn't expecting this, but I asked my dad to like get into Celsius. We've all got our stories, right? But I guess I have a question, but I'll frame it as a statement. When it comes to forgiveness, as far as I feel it, can only come after someone has acknowledged and repented for what they've done. So I guess my question to you, Simon, is, because I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to this, has Mashinsky acknowledged or repented for anything, or has he just been stone cold, didn't do anything wrong the whole time, which is my understanding of the situation. And in that situation, that person doesn't necessarily deserve any forgiveness. You can forgive them for your own sake, for your own sanity, but does he deserve it? Has he repented at all? That's my question to you, Simon.
Yeah, so today there was a thread from the court. So firstly, he pled guilty to 2 counts. He was being charged for 7 counts and facing up to 115 years. And as a strategy, I believe that his lawyers advised him to plead guilty to 2, and he ended up with 12 years. So I don't think it was because he wanted to plead guilty. I think it was because it was a legal strategy. I know throughout the bankruptcy, he was still trying to get as much money as he can as a creditor. I know that he set up an ad hoc in order to try and make, dilute all of our recoveries by a 3 sale token. And after he pled guilty, he did as much as he could to roll over and delay. And based upon the thread today, there was I will take responsibility for all 1,000 staff. So that was a real, I think a really low blow. Basically still trying to blame shift. And there was an element of what I wasn't there, but crocodile tears and a little bit of an apology. But I'll leave it for you to read the thread. So on my X, underneath, where I had this space, I put links to the live coverage that came from the court. I think you should read it for yourself and make your own judgment. But from me, Yeah, I don't think. If you remember, I put a blog post together that when he came up and I confronted him, and he said he was waiting for his lawyers to allow him to apologize. Don't think we ever got the apology, but you judge for yourself.
All right, thanks, Jay, or Justin. Sorry. Ibra Diep, did you fix your speaker?
Hi guys, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you
Yeah,
clearly now.
that's
Much
good now.
better. Listening. I was coming here. I'm a long time listener. I've been with you guys since the beginning. I wanted to raise my glass to everybody because you guys have really coached me through all of this. I'm a daycare teacher. I put some money into this. I lost it, and then I figured out how to get my sanity back by listening to what most of you guys had to say. And I was I think a student, and I followed you guys until now, and I've got my ribs back on straight. And I can say that it's very much because of these spaces. So I wanted to raise my glass to you guys and let you guys know that I was able to get rid of all that anger that I had for Mr. Mashinsky today. And I am a very happy camper to know that I found most of you folks, and that my Bitcoin is still there and going strong, and that I've got nothing but love for all of you, man. We won today. Hello.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your words, and I'm glad that you're in a much better place and have some sense of closure too. Jay?
Hey, everybody. Simon, thank you. Mary, thank you for bringing me on. First of all, Simon, thank you so much for everything you do, sir. Thank you so much, man. If people are not following what he does on YouTube, you guys really need to go, first of all, follow him. And then second of all, listen to everything he does about Follow the Money, because boy, if he's not on spot on everything that he talks about on Follow the Money, and for some reason, it just happens to play out exactly the way he says it. After that, second thing I would like to say, I hope everybody walks away positive with this. There's always going to be opportunity to build more. Like we're seeing bull market happen again, or the mini bull market happen again today.
Hey Jay,
And
are you in some wind, or is that somewhere else?
let me get out of the wind. I was actually standing outside, so let me step back in.
Got you, brother. Yeah, it sounds like you're like attacking a bag of chips or something.
Okay, so I wanted to say thank you, and I hope everybody heard me. And yeah, I don't want to take too much time because I'm sure there are other people on the list. But thank you, Simon, again for everything you do, and I hope everybody walk away motivated and keep collecting more Bitcoin, man. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Jay. Hey, DNA confirmed. I think you were in the courtroom today, were you not?
Hey, Mary. No, I wasn't. I was just following a lot of the scripts on Twitter and other places as well, just trying to keep people informed. But yeah,
Thanks for
it was
that.
winding me up. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for well, hello everyone, and thanks for putting me in the room. Simon, you mentioned earlier on that you've learnt a lesson from this whole diabolical situation, and I was just wondering what that lesson is that you learned.
Oh, so many, man. Where can I begin? Like,
What is the most impactful one for you?
so many. I think I was a lot more ignorant before this whole process, and it drove me into an area of research that I never knew too much about, and obsessively drove me down that area, which I think is. I think I remember at the beginning, I kind of thought the lawyers were on our side. Like that's how ignorant I was. Like because I'd just never been through such a ruthless process, and just like going through all of that. What else?
So in a nutshell, you would say DYOR on all of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't. Yeah, you've caught me off guard there. Really, I don't know what the biggest lesson is, but there was so much to learn from this.
I mean, you touched on, I suppose, humanity a bit there for me, but for me, going into this, I was a lot more trusting of people than I am now. And I think from my experience in life so far, everything that happens to you happens for a reason, and if it's negative, there's something positive that you can take from it because there's a lesson. In this scenario where I invested a lot of my money, a lot of my time to earn the money to invest, knowing where cryptocurrency is going, I struggle with what's the sentence that's been given to Mashinsky, and the knowledge that money's been squirreled away into trusts and various other family members, and we are not getting that back. And a lot of us have struggled, fought to earn the money to invest. And some people, as much as people turn around and say you can make it back, here's the lesson and things like that. Some people don't have that luxury. They don't have that runway at the end of their life to earn that money that they initially put in to the system to then reap the rewards of the next bull run. And we're in this bull run. And I struggle because I look at what I had and where I'm trying to get back to. And yeah, it vexes me. And the lesson for me is I'm just so untrusting of people. I'm untrusting of governments. I'm, there's always an ulterior motive. And yeah, do your own research. Don't trust people at face value. Is I suppose the lesson that I've got from this.
Thanks, DNA.
Thank you.
Carm C.
Hi. As you know, as you guys started talking about lessons, I thought I'd just chime in, share some thoughts for the benefit of everyone else. I think, so I think a lot of people have said like the tuition for financial education, right? That's kind of what all of this was. I paid a good amount of money for grad school too. I got my master's in business and learned all this stuff about investing, but there was always this fear. I remember as I started investing, because people talked about like play accounts and learn how to invest in the stock market and so on. And I was always afraid, what if I make a mistake? What if I lose a bunch of money? And Celsius in a way kind of took away all that fear, because you did end up losing a whole bunch of money. And in a weird way, that kind of made me more confident, much better investor, more sensible. I know some people talked, the last spoker just spoke about like being distrusting towards people. That's definitely a part of it. Um, learning about sovereignty, like what is it that you actually own? Are the stocks yours? If they're in a brokerage platform? Is the Bitcoin yours if it's in some platform? Um, but yeah, I think, for me personally, I have a long road ahead. So I think this tuition is really going to pay off, and it has already. But I hope it pays off for other people as well. So that's what I got.
Thanks, Carm. Appreciate you coming up. Elizabeth, you came back up on the stage. Hi there. Elizabeth? Okay, she must not be able to hear me. Simon, that's it for the speakers that I have. Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So, Mary, I just wanted to leave people with a few things. So, look, we've been through what we've been through. Mashinsky's, that chapter is closed. I want to make sure everyone is really focusing on them, on really building themselves for the future. I hold a personal belief that the rate at pace at which artificial intelligence and robotics and the world order that we are experiencing right now, we are going through a once in a generation and sometimes no generation change in life. Most people won't experience the changes that we're about to see. And I just want everyone to know that now is the time that the world is recollaborating around artificial intelligence. And I don't think people recognize or realize how big a change it is. And maybe you do. But I speak to a lot of people that I don't think have truly appreciated what it is. And, you know, this tariff policy that you are experiencing is definitely not a temporary thing. I cover it often on my, I cover all the news on my Bitcoin Hard Talk weekly show. But I've done the economics and I've done the math, and this isn't just something that goes away. This is a completely world-changing event. And the power of the world. We are witnessing, I believe, the end of the Bretton Woods post-World War II era of dollar dominance. And I think a lot of people are in denial. I don't think people are planning for that. And I don't think people appreciate and understand how big an impact artificial intelligence and robotic is about to have. We are on an exponential curve that is, you know, can potentially turn us into stateless worlds. Governments may not be able to regulate. Central banks may not be able to bank. Governments may not be able to collect tax in the future. We're going to be witnessing in the next 5 to 10 years rapid change. And everybody needs to be prepared for that. There will be massive growth in every part of that ecosystem, whether it's from, the extraction of energy through to semiconductor chips, steel manufacturing, data centers, through to artificial intelligence applications, stable coins, decentralized artificial intelligence, identity. We did the experiment with money, proof of work, all the way through up to the top of the chain of Bitcoin strategic reserves and everything. But the entire economy is going to re-collaborate around that. And the traditional role of dollar dominance, I believe, is coming to an end strategically. And we're entering to a multipolar world order. And I think Bitcoin is going to do incredibly well in a multipolar order. The model of the Federal Reserve printing money and then Bitcoin doing well when interest rates go down and QE goes up, that I believe is a dead model. So if you need to reskill yourself, if you need to retrain yourself, if you need to just take a few months out to really, really train on what artificial intelligence is, um, you know, I think you have a limited period of time in order to earn as much fiat currency as possible. I think people should really be thinking about their debt strategy if they are in debt. How they manage it. What I want people to appreciate, and I can't give you any type of advice on this, but if you are just managing debt and you're not accumulating Bitcoin, I think you need to really think about how you manage your financial affairs. Everybody needs to save as much Bitcoin as they possibly can. I think it is the play. I think it is something that all the banks are trying to push towards, because these are the people that can actually make these changes in trends. And so when thinking about that, make sure you own more Bitcoin every single month than the previous month. Wherever you can, minimize your debt burden. You get to boycott the system by not saving your money in the debt-based system. Be skeptical of anyone that's telling you to leverage fiat currency and borrow against your Bitcoin. If you're going to do that, then just make sure you're managing it and risk managing it in a way where you're willing to lose whatever you have in collateral. But remember, the fiat currency system will always have power the longer you enable it. And debt is the mechanism that is fueling all of these wars, all of this death and destruction, and all of these problems in the world. So think about, whether you're fueling the debt-based system. And the way to boycott it is to save in Bitcoin. I'm sure everyone's learned those lessons of self-custody by this point. But make sure you own more Bitcoin this month than you did last month. And if you're managing debt, make sure you pay yourself first and you get your Bitcoin first. And then you figure out what you're going to do with your debt. Because governments are probably going to, they may default, or they may use mechanisms in order to demonetize it, or whatever. There's games that they are playing, and people just need to appreciate that there is a race to get Bitcoin. Take it seriously. Like, earn as much fiat currency as you can, work as hard as you can, make sure that you're reskilling into a trend along the world, knowing that AI and robotics. I think we're going to enter into a world where there's people that have Bitcoin and the rest are going to be on universal basic income. That's a very real possibility, the way things are going. So even if that doesn't happen, just take that seriously for the next 5 years or a decade, and you can radically change your situation, even if you're starting from a shitty situation. Also, think about when you're spending your money, think about whether you're fueling, a technocratic empire that is going to end up with social credit scores and universal basic incomes and programmatic stable coins and central bank digital currencies. The S&P 500 is probably going to turn to the S&P 10 because this tariff policy is going to wipe out many, many small businesses, particularly in America. There's going to be a consolidation of power up to large corporations. The export-dependent countries, their businesses that are about to be really impacted by this, they'll probably be consolidated up into large multinational financial institutions. And the world is re-collaborating around being split into blocks, whether it be a Gulf block or BRICS block or a European block. Here's what I know right now, and I could be wrong. Our governments are no longer in control. The European Union and the European Central Bank do not work for European people anymore. The British government, the Bank of England, does not work for British people anymore. And I know that you might think that the Trump administration has got works for you, but I promise you, when you follow the money, and I give content on this every week, there is banks and financial institutions, the BlackRocks of the world, have created a parallel government that owns most of the world's assets, that is funding most of these wars, and is deliberately agitating, and they control the entire political process. Through this mechanism of the radical financialization and securitization of the world, BlackRock is larger than any government in the world. It has more control. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. It is taking countries, creating wars, financializing their assets, and moving capital, because now BlackRock, they actually control fiscal policy through Treasury, monetary policy through the Federal Reserve, and they're providing the technology to all the asset managers and money managers in the world. There is a much, much greater force that controls America, Europe, Britain, that our governments no longer work for us. And I've seen it in Britain. There's been a massive decline. They have fueled racial tensions. They've used open border policies in order to create racial tensions and civil unrest. They've created scenarios where Ukraine is essentially now owned by BlackRock. America is just asset stripping all of the resources out of it. The whole Western bloc is just being asset stripped and pushed into civil tensions. And I hope people take this seriously and not just think I'm being hyperbolic. There is the large financial institutions, the banks, they have formed a shadow government at this stage, and they are sacrificing Europe, America, Britain. And I've seen the massive decline in what they're doing in Britain and the massive decline of what they've done in the European Union. NATO was used as a weapon in order to create that Ukrainian war. They forced the German government no longer works for the German people. They switched off all their nuclear power. They started investing in renewable. The Nord Stream pipeline was blown up in order to deliberately send Europe into a major recession. It destroyed the manufacturing base. It destroyed Europe, and Europe is just being asset stripped, where they just want to get $1 trillion and send it over to Lockheed Martin, General Dynamic, Raytheon, in order to just fuel wars and fund wars. Now, I don't think we're entering into World War III. The reason is because the world's splitting up into blocks instead. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I want you to understand your government no longer works for you, and many people think that they do. The American government works for BlackRock, the European government works for BlackRock, the British government works for BlackRock, and they don't give a shit about you. So I want you to protect yourself. I want you to recognize that the fuel of their power is debt. So minimize debt where you can. Save in Bitcoin. They created what we all went through in order to try and get as many Bitcoin as possible, and they're doing that structure again. And recognize that rather than spending on these large technocratic institutions, if you can spend local on community, you're going to need to build up your community. Because I do think we fight back through decentralization. I just want you to recognize we are not in a war between China and America. We are not in a war between Democrat and Republican. We're not in a war between left and right. We're not in a war between Labor and conservative. We're not in a war between Muslims, Jews, atheists, Hindus, and Christians. We are in a war of decentralization versus centralization. And we have now taken the world into a parallel structure where BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they have so much power that every government in the world works for them. And they can control and change politicians at a whim. They control intelligence. They control the money printer. They control all the assets. They control the world's capital. We are there. And they have plans for the world. And you need to be prepared for that. And you win this game by boycotting the debt, spending local, investing in your community, saving in Bitcoin, and making sure that you're earning as much fiat currency, knowing that the world is shifting to this whole robotics and artificial intelligence world. I think I think things are happening a lot faster than people recognize. And in 5 to 10 years, I don't think anyone's going to recognize the world that we live in based upon how you live today. So I'd like you to just take that, treat it as urgent. And even if you think, Simon, you're full of shit, you're being hyperbolic, I'd like you to treat yourself as if all of that's going to happen. Because if you put together a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, panic now so that you're not panicking later. And that's what I just want to leave everyone with, that message. This is a recognition that we are in a radically changing world, and if you're not prepared for it, you will get eaten alive by it. And I want everyone to really take that seriously, because I'll keep doing my weekly YouTube shows and kind of put some more details in it. You may think this all sounds very conspiratorial, very crazy, but I can assure you, if you think I did deep research and into this whole Chapter 11 process, I've done my research on all these things as well, and I'm preparing for that. And I think everybody needs to prepare for that. Economic power in the future is a function of how much Bitcoin you have, and beware of people like we may love the Michael Saylors of the world, we might love the Jack Mallers of the world, but there is a system that is way bigger than them. And even if you completely trust them, when they say borrow against your Bitcoin, when they say buy MicroStrategy shares, there is a big game being set up at the highest level, from those that control significantly more power than Celsius or anyone ever did, or FTX or anyone in our piddly little industry relative to what's happening right now. And I can assure you, they want your Bitcoin. And if there is any mechanism, they're setting up a whole process to do the whole FTX Celsius process. And as you know, it's systemic. So the only way you lose your Bitcoin is if you leverage your Bitcoin, and if you store it with someone else, and you get caught on the wrong side of a trend. Please take that from the Celsius lesson. Please rebuild. Please recognize what a radically changing time we are in. And please treat today as you putting together a plan. If you've already got your plan together, look, I've already got my plan. I'm going to be fine whatever happens because I prepared for this a long time ago. But if you're not there yet, I just want everyone to take that seriously. And even if I'm completely wrong, at least you would have put together a plan that radically changes things. Treat that urgently. Don't allow someone saying everything's going to be okay, because I think so many people are underestimating the world that we're entering into right now. And I don't think everyone knows exactly what it looks like, but we'll continue being on spaces. But just understand, our governments no longer work for us. And the forces that our governments work for, they don't give a shit about you. They're willing to kill people. They're willing to genocide people. They're willing to fuel wars. And they're doing it all around the world right now. And that network that used to work in the global south and destroyed the Middle East, destroyed the global south, is turning on its own right now. Britain has been sacrificed. European Union has been sacrificed. And I think that was the beta test for what they want to do to America next. And so just have it be known, you can't depend upon your government. And there is a shadow government that is way, way, way bigger in this stateless world that we tend to be entering into right now. So I just wanted to leave you with that, and recognize that we're going through this journey together. We got through this journey. And if I inspire you to take this more seriously and protect yourself, protect your family, protect your community, then that's a message I just wanted to leave with everybody. And so thanks, everybody. The chapter is closed. He got 12 years, but please focus on yourself, focus on your family, and make sure you end up with more Bitcoin this month than you did the previous month, because we are so fortunate to be alive at a time when we get Bitcoin. We've learned the lessons. And if you haven't got enough Bitcoin right now, then really focus your energy, because I do believe that Bitcoin equals economic power in the future. And those that don't have enough Bitcoin are probably going to end up in 10 years on a universal basic income. All right. So I just wanted to leave that message with you. Peace. I'll see you in the next space. Thanks, everybody.